Palm trees and warm Florida skies greet the ones hopeful for playoff contention as the series rolls through the final race of the regular season. Live from the virtual Daytona International Speedway and the World Center of Racing, we bring you race number 14 of the Season 6 Sunoco Cup Series and the Fastenal 330. Welcome to our live coverage on Podium Esports, where alongside Joe Peak in the broadcast booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Ryan Bauer producing all the shots you'll see tonight using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Joe, answers, we have none of them. Usually at Daytona, you'd expect answers to come at the checkered flag. I mean, there's so many factors that could go into tonight's race. We have a playoff battle that's within single-digit points for the top 16. You can expect the unexpected. We're trying to find a lot of those questions answered after tonight's race from the high banks.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it either could be good news or bad news, depending on where you are in trying to get into the postseason here, because it cuts both ways. It could find you being from far behind to suddenly in it, or it could find you being pretty solidly within the boundaries, and then you're out before you know it. So it's, like I said, it's going to go one of two ways, and you got to just race it out to see which way it is. And as with Daytona, if you're not familiar with this style of racing, it's going to be a whole lot more about your strategy and staying out of trouble than it is about your outright speed.
And survival is going to be key, no doubt about it, and especially for those that are right on that cut line for the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. Let's meet those drivers, see exactly who those drivers are going into tonight's race, who's at risk and who is probably with their backs against the wall going into tonight. Isaac Mock holds the last spot in the top 16 by 6 total points over Dakota Curtis in the 10. You've got 3 drivers below: Kevin Hurley, Warren Kyle Keith, Austin Shoemaker, that still theoretically have chances. And Joe, we're going to be watching this cut line all night long, but even you can look beyond these group of drivers. Anybody in the top 30 are eligible to get into the playoffs if they win tonight's race. It is blown wide open, but here's our biggest focus.
Exactly, and you touched on one of those important things. There's going to be those that are going for broke here, and so if you are trying to points race, you have to keep that in mind, because the drivers are going to be making decisions that they wouldn't normally do or you wouldn't normally expect. You need to make sure that you're cognizant of that so that you either give them a little bit more space or maybe fight them a little bit harder.
And it was a flip of the dice for Isaac Mock, who was last week at Watkins Glen below the cut line to Dakota Curtis. Both of them have switched spots, and we'll see exactly just how those two will race tonight's event from Daytona International Speedway. Well, we will talk to some of those drivers and get their opinions on what is to be expected here from the World Center of Racing. We begin with the driver who's sitting right above that cut line for the top 16. It's Nitro Motorsports' Isaac Mock. And Isaac, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. You've got one race left to put you in or out of the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. First and simply, what's on your mind before we drop the green tonight?
Right now, my internet. Trying to say a couple prayers here. We've disconnected twice. I've reset twice. We have one last thunderstorm leaving, so hopefully it'll get out of the area and I can get established connection here, hopefully.
Well, hopefully you end up getting that connection to be able to race here tonight. But coming off of Watkins Glen, you were underneath the cut line before that race. You end up surging over from Dakota Curtis. How big of a switch was that for you? And what does that say about your motivation for tonight's race in terms of staying alive and just trying to make the top 16?
It shows that I can not only just put the preparation in, that I can actually execute on it and have that confidence and momentum to get us there. I just wish we had a little bit more established track instead of more of just kind of playing it by ear and luck the entire race. But again, just put the preparation in all week, and hopefully we can execute on it tonight.
Well, Isaac, we wish you the best of luck. Hopefully the internet settles itself out and you can join us for the green flag later on this evening. And best of luck here at Daytona.
Thank you guys so much.
So that is Nitro Motorsports' Isaac Mock, who seemingly has a pretty decent resume at super speedways, especially this season. Atlanta Motor Speedway to kick off the year. James Kunkel was in that potential spot to win the race, and some other teammates also put up some decent performances as well. Joe Peak, you're caught up with the driver who's just right behind him, barely out of the playoffs as it stands. That's league owner Dakota Curtis.
Exactly. And Dakota, if I'm seeing the stats right, you've had a single top 10 up to this point in the season, and yet you are this close to making the cut. Do you change your approach because it's gotten you this far? Is it worth trying to do anything different?
Oh, it's 100% worth trying to do something different. This season's been very rough. We've had, I would probably say we should be at least 5 or 6 top 10s this season, but we've been wrecked out when we were in the top 10. Almost every race that we're hanging out around there. So it's been a rough season so far. I mean, we've had so many finishes in the top 20, but we've been consistent around the top 20, and that's the reason why we are where we are right now. So.
And of course, you know, the elephant in the room is that if you get a win, you're in no matter what everybody scores. So do you try and go for broke and try for that, or do you try and points race?
We're going for stage win. I mean, we're going for stage races, or stage points to this race, and that's the big thing we're going to be focusing on, is just getting those stage points and finishing high. I mean, usually here at Daytona, if you're in the top 10, you don't have too many issues and don't get involved in too many wrecks. So that's where we're going to be. That's where we're going to be sitting around hopefully the whole race.
Well, best of luck to you, and you're the best position of those outside looking in. So things are looking up, at least at the start.
Yeah, thanks.
Dakota Curtis in the number 10. In the meantime, I do believe that Kenneth is caught up with Kevin Hurley.
Indeed, here with the driver of the number 25, who sits just below Dakota Curtis, 18 points out of the top 16. But Kevin, you have had some really good races at super speedways as of late. Atlanta Motor Speedway this season was a top 3, and then came a top 10 at Talladega. Does this race feel a little more comfortable just because of your resume at super speedways this season, or does it still feel as nerve-wracking as ever?
It's nerve-wracking. It's seems to be a really hectic package today, so it's gonna be a bit of a crapshoot.
Well, nonetheless, you've got some of your teammates with you. I know you are part of the Spirit of Daytona team, but you're an affiliate of Sega Keith Motorsports. So does that give you a little more confidence? And so how will that plan work forward for you to try and get yourself into the playoffs for this year?
Well, yeah, that's helpful, having people who can, give me a break here and I can give a break there. But in the end, it's going to be difficult to get everyone sort of shifted into line anyway. It seems like it might just be people racing individuals instead of teams.
Well, regardless of which, Kevin, we certainly wish you the best of luck out on track. I know it's going to be a big one here from Daytona. So, Kevin, best of luck. We'll let you wrap up practice, and we'll see you at the green flag.
All right.
So that is Kevin Hurley, driver of the number 25, 18 points out of the top 16. The driver behind him, Joe Peak, is one that you're caught up with, and one that doesn't only have the playoffs in mind, part of that big bracket challenge as well.
Absolutely, Warren. Kyle Keith, only a single point behind Kevin Hurley, but I noticed you've only put just a couple laps in here in the warm-up. Are you keeping your cards close to your chest going in?
Yeah, I mean, there's no cards really. Everyone's cards are flat on the ground. It's plate racing at Daytona. There's nothing really anyone can really do other than go out there and just pray you don't get involved in somebody's injuries tonight. So, yeah, no real need to get practice laps in, but sure, in the race we're going to be really competitive as usual.
And we heard Kenneth mention that you're also part of the big bracket challenge. So what trumps here? Do you want to try and take the bracket, or do you want to try to get in for the postseason?
Postseason, yeah, 100%. If I win $200 tonight, it is what it is. But I would love to go and try to win a championship as well. So definitely going to go for that over the bracket. But if things don't go our way and we get in a wreck and Parker gets in a wreck, then yeah, we'll focus on the bracket for sure.
Well, we'll be watching out for you. Best of luck when we hit the green flag.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Warren Kyle Keith, the number 24. Kenneth, back to you.
And let's talk about that big bracket challenge that the 24 of Warren Kyle Keith is in after. $200 to the winner, and it's finally gotten down to two, Joe Peak. Parker Bland, the Cinderella story has continued all the way to this point, and it might end up with a cash prize at the end. And then that 24 of Warren Kyle Keith, 27th in the rankings all the way to here. Do you expect a certain winner? And what do you see out of this challenge tonight?
Well, I think it's going to come down to where the luck lies tonight, because we've seen Warren Kyle Keith be incredibly fast at times, and yet he hasn't always had the luck. So it's kind of what the racing gods feel like, if you ask me, because Warren Kyle Keith, I think, might have the edge if it was out to outright pace, but then it is Daytona, as he mentioned. So it could have go any way, and I think Parker has just as good of a shot. So to me, it's a complete toss-up. Throw a coin in the air and tell me which way it lands.
Oh, that's true. Parker Bland, though, has a pretty decent outing at super speedways. You've seen her do rather well, and Warren Kyle Keith also has his fair share of success at these larger tracks. It's either 50-50, you're right. You never know what could happen, and with the way these races have turned out unpredictable, it's not entirely certain. In our entire history of super speedway races in season 6 of the Sunoco Cup Series, we've seen outstanding racing, but it is the first time, Joe Peak, that we visit the World Center of Racing. Usually we'd expect it to be race number 1. Here it is as the final race of the regular season. What is it about going around Daytona?
Well, like I said before, it's a lot about trying to get your strategy right, place your car in the right place at the right time, and avoid the big one, as they always say. But this 2.5-mile track at 31 degrees in the corners, or at least turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the tri-oval even has 18 degrees banking, which at most tracks would still be incredibly steep. And yet that's the shallow part. It is all about speed. It is all about making sure that that you're thinking about the big picture in terms of things. And more than that, you have to think about the fact that if we get green flag racing here, hope you practice that pit entry, because that can make or break your race.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Pit road penalties are really hurtful at these larger tracks, and Talladega can also tell you the same thing. You really have to dial that in. Trouble could arise at any moment. You're going to want to minimize the pit road troubles as much as possible. Here's our race analysis for tonight's Fastenal 330. We go 125 laps from Daytona Beach, Florida. Our stages are represented as such, 30 each for stages 1 and 2. We're going to be monitoring those very closely all night long, with that battle for the playoffs at stake. And then we go the final 65 laps all the way to lap 125, where we throw the checkered flag. 3 green-white checkered attempts if we need them. Those are synonymous with super speedway racing. We have no fast repairs given to the drivers, and it's a fixed setup. That's going to be huge, Joe. The fact that these drivers do not have a freebie car to get if they tear their first one up. They're really going to have to make sure they keep it all in one piece, and alluding to what you had mentioned earlier, just trying to survive and stay out on track.
Yeah, exactly. And so decision making is going to be very key here. You have to consider, is what the risk I'm about to take going to be worth it if it goes awry? And honestly, if you ask me, but then I'm a bit more of a conservative driver on that front, the answer is going to usually be no until you probably get about the last 20 laps to go. At that point, it's time to move. If you're on the lead lap, if you're with the lead pack, you're still good. So just stay patient and wait for the race to come to you.
It's sort of a pace of aggression, really, at these super speedways, whether you want to hang back in the field or whether you want to immediately gun up for the lead, gun up for top spots. Speaking of top spots, Dakota Curtis just put in a 49.668, which seems to be one of the better laps we've seen in qualifying. That has put him 5th, but still a lot of drivers left to go. This is the 46 of Joseph Mahar for SK Sim Racing. Trying to wrap it around the back straightaway. And Curtis, we talked about him, one of those drivers that is within single-digit points of the top 16. Back to Isaac Mock, he talked about stage points being so big. And then you look at all these others that are still within the top 30, Joe, that theoretically have a chance. I mean, the focus is on maybe 5 or 6 drivers, but I mean, you're looking at almost the entire field. If they end up winning this race, it could throw a wrench into everybody's complexion of what the playoff situation is going to look like. And Joseph Mohar in the 46 completing his lap and it looks like that will put him so far. I don't see him on the charts.
It got
as
deleted.
it stands. Yeah, it did get invalid.
I saw him brush the wall just as we were coming to him, so I wondered if my eyes were deceiving me, and apparently not. So the 46 is going to hope that he's got enough speed here on the second bit, but I'm not too confident. If he brushed the wall, that's going to take a significant chunk out of his momentum.
That's going to be big, and starting from the rear of the field isn't necessarily the easiest thing at these bigger tracks where you have everybody packed in together, and it's really hard to really differentiate yourself when you've got so many drivers in the draft. Here is Talladega winner Aaron Adcock for Big Fish Motorsports, and I love the look on the bottom right of your screen, Joe Pink. That's a helmet for Adcock tonight. I remember the huge win that he picked up at Talladega earlier in the season. It was a last lap pass, and he's got the helmet put all the way down. He's got his focus set for putting his best 2 laps in qualifying. I love it. Oh no, and he hits the outside wall, and he will. Well, that's the reaction in the cockpit.
Yeah, there you go. Simulating everything just in case he has an accident out there. But that's going to put him up onto the provisional pole. And while it won't mean as much here at super speedways to have that pole position, it will put you out of trouble at the start for the most part. The farther up you can get, the less likely you're going to get caught up in a wreck. Now, it doesn't completely absolve you. I've seen plenty of wrecks happen at the very front of the field and take out just about the entire group there at the front. So you do have to still make those good decisions I was talking about, but you're less likely to get caught up in something that isn't your fault.
The only thing I can take away from that is safety first. He's got the helmet on and got the Hans device, and he's got a front spot in the field. So safety is of the utmost importance for driver number 23. Here's Gary Sexton in the Theory Ford Mustang, trying to get in on his laps. First lap at a 51.364, but we should expect the second lap to be faster. And we have seen at these larger tracks, and Talladega was a big example of this, Joe, the differences in style and the way that drivers try to build momentum for the second lap, which is always the money lap. You're never really going to have the first lap be of importance or significance. You want to have the second lap be it, and you see how drivers go to the high side, they try to build momentum off the corners and then dart to the bottom as soon as they get this lap. It's pretty interesting to watch how they do it.
Yeah, it's something that takes experience and knowledge to make sure that you get the best out of it. If you come in green, then you might not know those little tricks. And Sexton's second lap, a 49.6 is good enough for pole, actually.
The 13 to the top of the charts, quick time at a 49.607. A huge lap for the 13. He does not have any 0G teammates, at least with him inside the top 5, but if Sexton can stay up there, it should be a good sign. He is one of those drivers that is well off in points to make the top 16. He's got no concern about whether he's going to make the playoffs or not, but it is always so much momentum when you can get the pole and start up front. Here's the 48 of Alexander Muscarella for SKM. I was about to say SK Sim Racing, but Sega Keith Motorsports. SKM, one of the larger representative teams in the field at 4 drivers, and then you can count 5 if you bring in the 25 of Kevin Hurley. That will matter a lot, Joe Pekin. We'll discuss that in nauseum when we get the green flag, is how many drivers you can have together in a team and how important that is to making moves up at the front, potentially winning.
Yeah, so Alex here on his second lap, and that first one was pretty good. He's only about half a tenth off of the pole time, considering the small margins that you tend to work with. That's not too shabby, but puts him into the top 10. Let's see what the second one holds for him, if it's going to be any quicker here as he comes down to the tri-oval, cuts across down below the yellow line. You're allowed to do that in the tri-oval. And it is a 49.651, slightly faster, but doesn't take him up the order.
Now we'll put him in 8th, so just in between rookie driver Colin Forrester and the number 4 of Chris Shoemaker. Here is Ray Rogers in the 11 car, the Toyota Camry for RTR Motorsports, going to bring it across the start-finish line. His first lap at a 49.703, but again, we should expect that second lap to be much, much faster. We'll see what that 11 can do, but at the moment, he's got a time good enough for 24th. Now, you're not seeing a certain driver on the scoring pylon this evening, and that is for a specific reason. Driver Mario Miranda in the number 99 was a victim of the MCS storms, a pair of thunderstorms and clusters of them that hit the Tulsa metro area and did have some damage around his house. But we are wishing well to the Miranda family. We're glad that they're all safe. Power is still out in their household, so Mario, unfortunately, not able to run tonight's race from Daytona, but his 2 wins surely to lock him in the playoffs for this year. We should expect him hopefully to return by the time we get our first race of the playoffs at Nashville Superspeedway. So again, well wishes to the Miranda family. We're glad they're all okay, and hopefully we'll see Mario Miranda take the green flag next week. Here's Warren Kyle Keith, driver we talked to a little bit earlier on tonight, with his qualifying effort.
Yeah, and we saw Ray Rogers there jump himself up into 5th before, so definitely a few drivers kind of sneaking in late. We got about 30 seconds left. You will see a number of them that have not set times. Now, I'm a little bit surprised, actually, that we're not seeing more that haven't set times, because often we'll see here in these super speedways that you'll get a group of drivers whose thought process is, if I can't be up at the front or I don't feel confident about being at the front, might as well go to the back, because that's another way to really control your fate a little bit better. Warren Kyle Keith with a 49.666 is going to jump to 14th, so he's going to be smack dab in the middle, unfortunately.
The Hornet's Nest at Daytona. Whether that's a good or bad thing, it depends on the driver. But qualifying has come to a close. We will take you trackside to give you your starting grid for tonight's Fastenal 330 from the World Center of Racing. Gary Sexton for 0G puts in the fastest lap by a long shot, a 49.607 will bring him first to the green flag. And Dega winner Aaron Adcock would look to go 2 in a row at Super Speedways. He joins the 13 car in row number 1. Steven Stepien to give support to his 0G teammate as he rolls off in 3rd. Kip Easley in the 8 car for Nitro Motorsports will be on his outside in 4th place. Ray Rogers, we saw him earlier in qualifying. His best lap was a 49.647. That was well enough to put him inside the top 5. And you've got Ross Harlow for Sega Keith Motorsports on his outside to roll off in 6th. 7th place will go to none other than the 7 car, Chris Brogar for TOW Racing. He's got rookie driver Colin Forrester to his outside in 8th. And then go the final 2 inside our top 10 this evening from Daytona. It's Alex Muscarella in the 48 in 9th. Chris Shoemaker, Joe Peak to round out the top 10.
And then our last above the cut line, Isaac Mock, will start in 11th. Brandon Banks, P12. Sees Justin Winters on the inside of the next row, and Warren Kyle Keith in 14th, although he is asking for an EOL. Not sure if they are allowed to give that to him or not. Dakota Curtis will be starting 15th, and Bill Schoonover in the 16th spot. Next row sees Austin Shoemaker to the inside and Ryan Kindle to the outside, and then you get to row 10 here with Justin Erb and Kevin Hurley.
Hurley starting pretty deep in this field. Remember, one of those on the bubble outside of the top 16 in points. Wyatt Brackett is 29 points above the cut line. We'll see where he stacks up from 21st on the grid tonight. Brad Fulham to join him in row number 11. That's P22. James Conco close to the win at Atlanta Motor Speedway to kick off the year. He starts tonight from 23rd and 24th to the 32 car of Richard Swavely. Judd Danielson inside the top 25. He's got his teammate Sean Kalis alongside him in row number 13. Jesse Whittington with a qualifying effort that will put him 27th. A lot of work to do on the green flag. And Joseph Mahar in the 46 is 28th. Parker Bland in the 18 car. Parker looking for the $200 out of the big bracket challenge will roll off from 29th. Dustin Reeves in the number 6 car rounds out the top 30.
Last one to set a time, Dakota Wilson in 31st. From there, it's all drivers that did not put one on the board. Lawson Peel and Garrett Brown. You've got Logan Sturgeon along with Casey Knighton, Charles Feltz, and Justin Miller, your 37. And I can confirm that Warren Kyle Keith was given an EOL as he requested. Also, Ross Harlow was given one.
Yes, sir. Both of them requested it. They've got it. So they're going to be at the rear of the field for Harlow. And no concern, he had that win at Richmond to lock him into the playoffs, but that's going to be pretty big for the 24 of Warren Kyle Keith. He doesn't want to lose a lot of points And obviously going for the $200 out of the big bracket challenge. He's going to be sitting behind Parker Bland when we get this green flag. So ultimately, it's going to be a little more of a challenge for the SKM number 24. Let's take a look at track conditions before we drop the green here at Daytona. Track temp at 81 degrees. It is to cool down, though. Sun is setting here in Florida. Temp at about 78 degrees, winds blowing to the north at 2 miles an hour. It is a beautiful evening to go racing here at Daytona, and it's a great one to decide the 16 that will advance into the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. Gary Sexton, Aaron Adcock, front row to the green flag to kick off the Fastenal 330. Kicking up through the gears to complete lap number 1. Gary Sexton leads him back to the stripe. Steven Stempian got bumped all the way to 7th place and got shot up to the high side. As you see Aaron Adcock officially take over 2nd. Kip Easley in a 3rd. Ray Rogers and Chris Progar to round out your top 5. That outside is trying to gain momentum, but to no avail. They've lost some drivers over the first lap and a half. And up to lap number 2, the field still in control of the 13. Back to turn 3.
Now, the jockeying that we saw in the first lap from those top 4 or 5 wasn't all that surprising, if a little bit eyebrow raising. What did surprise me was Sexton actually throwing a couple blocks on lap 1. He really wants to be at the front, and I guess the message got across, because since then it doesn't seem like Adcock has tried to do anything to try and shake him. So maybe that's what he was doing, just trying to communicate, listen, I don't want us to try and swap around too much. Let's just get this in.
And there's nothing better than setting the tone early. And for that 13, like you said, got that message across, and it looks like everybody else has nodded to the message. They're respecting it so far. As we watch the 81 car of Steven Stempian trying to man the high side. He's got a big push from the 31 of Colin Forrester. Here's a look with Chris Progar inside the 5th spot, but he'll lose it. There goes the 81 to the high side as they check up on the bottom. And we're going to see a difference in lanes and momentum as well, Joe, throughout this race. We've seen with these next-gen cars that it can really turn on either side. Most notably, the high side is the best place to be, but we've seen a lot of good stuff out of wrapping the double yellow line at the bottom, and this is an example of it. It's shifting to the high side now, because back to turn 1, Stempian has a look at 3rd place.
Indeed. Now, watch out for those that are going for the playoffs and those that are trying to work their way forward. Those are the ones that are probably going to be trying to jockey around, try to get some spots, fill some openings, and move their way up towards the front. Otherwise, those at the front are like what we were saying before. Just want to log in the laps. They don't need to do anything until we get towards maybe the first stage to try and do some things. And even then, if they're already locked into the playoffs, they don't really need to as much, maybe to help themselves a bit in the postseason to get a slightly better position when we head into that points-wise. But it's mostly going to be those towards the middle and the back that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, seeing how much they're willing to risk here early.
There's not a need of desperation, no doubt about it, for those at the front. But yes, the midfield, we'll call it the Hornet's Nest all night long. It's going to be where we're watching and where the moves are really going to be made. A lot of 3-wide, 4-wide action. You really see an impact. You don't see it at the front or the very back. So we'll keep an eye on that. But it is still double file all the way throughout this field of 37 as you ride on board with the number 81 of Steven Stempian, who's still trying to gain momentum on the top side and almost got slammed into on the side. That was Ray Rogers in the 11. I think a little bit of a side draft there off of turn 4. Highest running driver in those 6 drivers that we mentioned on the bubble for the playoffs. Isaac Mock currently running inside the top 12 as Gary Sexton flips it to the high side. He's got support from his teammate. It's the 13 versus the 23 for the lead in turn 1.
Yeah, Stempien giving it a big shove there coming out of the tri-oval, and he's going to be able to rock up to the back of him once again with a nice little pull down the back stretch, using that momentum off the high side. The physics might not seem like they should do that much of an effect, but you have to remember, when you're coming off the banking, it's literally like riding down a hill, and those little bits do help give you that speed. So, and there's all different sorts of other things involved in it, but it basically is little things add up in this style of racing.
And with this next-gen car, I mean, these fixed setups can be awfully twitchy, so you can find yourself going down that hill with a bit of upsetness in the car, if that's even a word, but the car will sort of hop out if you treat it wrongly. And there's Dakota Curtis, a bit of a checkup there in front, and that was the driver of, I believe, the 30 car. Wyatt Brackett there just sort of checked up that groove, and that seemed to be the 18 of Parker Bland, who hit the outside wall and slowed down that lane quite a bit, but it seems to be okay. Bland has been moving up to the field, a really big gap to the 30. We're going to pick up a lot of pace on those drivers down low, as it appears the 31 of Forrester looked it to the bottom, did not find any space, and we are still even for the race lead, but some bobbles there. I mean, things can get really sketchy, Joe Peak, when you're pushing hard on these next-gen cars.
Yeah, and pushing is very much a skill in this one. Knowing how to square it up, how to do it right, when and where to do it. Again, comes back to knowledge. So much of super speedway racing is you got to be out there and doing it to kind of garner that expertise out here. And more than that, you kind of read the racing. You predict what's going to be happening because everything's moving so fast here. You got to be thinking so far forward and be kind of thinking, okay, this is going to elicit this and this is going to elicit this, and expect what's going to be happening next rather than just reacting to what's happening right now.
It's a very odd situation because at most other tracks, you really don't see that, right? You have a lot of time to relax, you know, at the 1.5 miles. You know, you have some time to really plan your situation out. You don't have things that can go easily wrong like you have in super speedway racing where everybody's so packed up together. Is there a way, Joe, to kind of hone in that focus and sort of forbid the all-over sensory overload mindset? Because, I mean, you're in the middle of the pack. You've got so many drivers around you. One driver makes a mistake, it can be all over for you. It's so easy to have things go wrong here. It has to be sort of interesting to see how drivers sort of get out of that overwhelmed mindset and try to focus on the task ahead.
And you know, it comes right back to what I said before, experience. That's something that I always, I didn't have enough of it here. So I always got way too nervous and I let that rattle me out there. You have to be cool, calm, and collected. There's trust out there that everybody's going to be doing what they need to be doing. Now, you do need a healthy dose of cynicism to keep yourself alive out here, some self-preservation, if you will. But you do need to be able to calm the nerves so that you're not gripping the wheel with white knuckles out there, because it requires such small and smooth movements to try and race at these speeds.
It's a big difference from what you said, a big difference between just holding your line and keeping it smooth versus darting for a 3-wide block or pass or something that could easily take you out of the race. I mean, the two sides of Daytona and these super speedway races, either full conservatism or full aggression. We haven't seen much aggression so far this evening. We saw a bit of it at the front between the 13 and the 23, but ever since Sexton has moved up to the high side to coop up with his teammate Steven Stempien at the 31 degrees of banking, it really hasn't been all too chaotic at the front of the field, and really I haven't seen much in the middle of the field either. Everybody just biding their time, logging in these laps, and trying to do their best to survive. And that turns back to, I mean, the race analysis that we talked about, Joe. You've got no faster curve, so you can't have that situation where you get your toe knocked out, you get your car damaged, and you're basically out of this race. You want to make sure you live to tail the tail. We're right on board with Ryan Kendall, who started back in 18th. One of our biggest movers, already up to 7th place. And I do want to touch on moving as well with the 5 and the 24. Ross Harlow, Warren, Kyle Keith. They both asked for end-of-line penalties to start the race. Well, they are currently 30th and 31st, but they are leading a single-file train in the second pack, way off for the first pack. This got to be dangerous.
Now, in normal situations, I would agree, absolutely, that second pack is not ideal because you've lost touch with the main pack. But we have to remember, we have the stages. So the drivers do have that going for them out here, we can expect them to get bunched up again before all is said and done. So I don't think they're in too much trouble in this situation. It's going to come back to them as long as they are not massively off the pace. And from what I can tell, they're not in danger of that.
Hopefully they're not in that sort of similar spot by the time we get to the 65 lap final stage that'll bring us to the end of the race, because that could be troublesome if you're looking at trying to pit and also trying to alternatively make your way on a pit road in comparison to what basically everyone at the front of the field is doing. We are still even for the lead, by the way. Gary Sexton in the 13, a big push by his teammate. There's the 23 of Adcock. He's getting helped by the number 8 car of Kip Easley, and boy, have they been really good at helping each other tonight. As you look at the cutoff battle on the right side of your screen, currently 15 points separate the 16th place driver, Isaac Mock, who's running well within the top 15, and then Dakota Curtis, who is right now lodged in the 18th position near the tail end of the outside lane in this first pack. So 14 laps green here at the Fastenal 330, and boy, those zero-G teammates have not been afraid to work together. I mean, you can tell, Joe, they've probably had some training some way or another, or they just had that knack for super speedway racing. Really clean to watch those two go at it with each other.
Absolutely, and it almost impressed me, honestly, that we saw Gary jump down to the bottom, and after the trial, he was right back up at the top. He's treating this like it's spinning plates or something. He takes care of one line, and then when he feels like he's got that one far enough ahead or exactly where he likes it, he dives over to the other line. Although this time that was a little bit more sketchy, and I think Colin Forrester has had enough of that 13 up at the front.
And we just turned up the aggression. I mentioned how calm this race was at the front. Well, now it's not anymore. Rookie Forrester moves his way up to the front of the field. He'll have the help from the Camaros down low of Adcock and Easley. But what a recovery by Sexton. Got the push from Stepien, calculated that perfectly, and now they've got a retaliation to get back to the front. And you're right there, Joe. He just got tired of hanging around third in line. He's like, I don't want to spend time tussling around with these zero-G teammates who are dominating this race. I want a piece of the cake myself. I'm going to go to the bottom, try and snag this lead away. And so far, he had it for about a split second until it was immediately tore apart by the 13. He'll try and get it back at the exit of the tri-oval, but Sexton has this lap led, and they'll even out back to turn 1.
And honestly, I feel like this is a style of racing that you hear about teammates more than anything other than perhaps Formula One. Because this style of racing just requires you to work together so much. If you have a teammate, you know you've got someone that is working towards the same goal there. It makes a huge difference. It's a two heads are better than one situation. And if you can even get 4 or 5 of you out there all kind of linking up, you can honestly, at times, manage to pull away. And is it just me, or did the 68 there, Kendall brushed the wall a little on the way to turn 3?
I think he did, but he seems to be rather okay. He just drifts high up off turn 4, a little dangerous there, and almost kicked off the rear end of his Chevy Camaro, but he's going to be okay, trying to get to the back bumper of Steven Stempy. And boy, they really got dismembered there on the inside for just a little bit. Adcock floated a little bit too high, got close to that 31's rear bumper, and it's really getting sketchy. It's lost them a lot of time, and what we're talking about lost time as well on that inside not only comes from misalignment of lines on the racetrack, Joe, but it's also by the checkups. That's something that you can easily get hit with at the super speedways and be kind of thrown off guard. Why would you check up if everyone's all single file, foot flat to the floor? But it's not as simple as that. You're looking in the draft where you have to lay off, or else you're going to run over the driver in front of you and give them a big push and possibly get them upset, their car at least. And then as a result, you've got all those drivers that are slowing down, and then huge lines that just check up from the beginning all the way to the end. It's a pretty unique phenomenon that happens at these super speedways, and one that can be really annoying for drivers. I know it's annoying for me when I'm on the set.
Yeah, they have that saying, don't push the pusher, and that's not meant to say don't make your dealer nervous. This is trying to say don't try and make the chain any bigger on the push. You can do tandem, but if you're pushing a car that is pushing, if you've ever tried that with dominoes out there, it doesn't really work. You know, as soon as you hit any sort of corner, somebody's going to get turned around, because physics don't really work that way with these cars. And look, another dive to the bottom for Gary Sexton. I am massively impressed with how he's been managing this whole thing. Forrester is not as impressed, as he's going to once again try and get past him.
It seems as though every time he sees that 13 car, he's like, nope, I'm going to go to the lane where he isn't. And he's going to go to the top. He'll get support, though, from Sexton's teammate, Stemping, who's just going to stay there on the top side. And that will shoot the 31 car to the race lead. So Colin Forrester will try to hold on to it. But we've seen both the outside and inside be contending for the lead. It isn't necessarily just a one-sided game. We've seen both of these sides provide ample momentum and success at running up at the front. And if we're talking about pushing the pusher, and if we're talking about dealing, then I'd say it's just like blackjack. You don't really want to overshoot over 21. You want to be a little cautious sometimes, and maybe you just want to stand instead of go for the hit. 31 car leads to the stripe lap number 20 of 125. We approach the final 10 laps of stage number 1. And what I want to look at here, Joe, is again this battle for the playoff. Dakota Curtis has found his way to 16th, now 15th, and now it is severely shrunk. It's only 8 points between himself and the 47. And the biggest reason why is because they're basically right next to each other. Dakota Curtis just got by on the back straightaway.
And let's not forget, there's those that are above the cut line that want to make themselves extra safe out there. And I realized, I think that's kind of where Gary Sexton sits. He doesn't have a win yet. If he can manage to snag one today, then that makes sure that he is through no matter what here, and also probably an extra bonus for himself going into that postseason. So I think he's got some impetus to try and ride the front here as much as we've seen. But for now, Highline starting to look like it's taken off a little better.
And they packed up on the inside, and they lost a lot of momentum. The 13 got shuffled to the middle. He had to find himself for a little bit, then got back to the bottom. And look who's up here on the inside. Not only the 30 of Wyatt Brackett, but the 10 of Dakota Curtis. And when we talked to him, or when you talked to him, Joe, earlier in the show, he mentioned that he wants to go for stage wins and stage points. He does not want to sort of stay around the middle of the field and hope that the amount of points he's accumulated is enough. He wants to go for the front and get those valuable points when needed. It's starting to work now. 9 laps to go in stage number 1. And look how much has changed on that cutoff battle on the right side of your screen. +6 for Dakota Curtis.
Indeed, that's going to put him above the cut line. So that's bad news for Mock, as he's now down below it. And by the way, somebody needs to maybe get into that car of the 46 and take the wall magnets out of it, because the car of Joseph Mahar once again went up against the wall and just scraped all along it. He's now fallen off the main group.
He's severely off, and we talked about Ross Harlow and Warren Kyle Keith leading that second group. They're still about maybe 7.8, 7.5 seconds off of the 46, but that is going to be big for the Ford Mustang of Mahar. Is just going to have to hope for that yellow flag. I mean, he really got torn out there with the hits to the outside wall, but it can be really easy to do if you're on that outside lane, swerving around in the draft, turbulent air. You can go for that outside wall, but just really tough there for the 46. Now the 47, Isaac Mock, has gone up to the high side. He saw what Dakota Curtis did to him. He's trying to find a way back to the front, but it doesn't seem all that successful, currently in 19th.
Shoemaker's also trying to make up some time here. He's got to get quite a few more positions, but he's already up to 6, and there we go. First problem of the night, as we got a bunch of cars that looks like they're going to be collected since this happened at the front.
Colin Forrester spun around, and he's got multiple others with him. One of them, the 47 of Mock, the other, the 25 of Kevin Hurley. Brad Fulham sideways on the 31 degrees of banking. And we'll try to assess what happened. Forrester was third car on the outside as Dakota Curtis was trying to take the lead away. And Joe Peak, what happened here?
Well, Richard Swavely fell victim to what we were just talking about. He was trying to be the pusher on the number 30 of Wyatt Brackett, and unfortunately behind him, Austin Shoemaker shoved him right into the car he was trying to push. So those three together just caused the train reaction, and he flipped up to the top. You're going to watch the purple and white car, and the 31 was at the wrong place at the wrong time there. So that's why he got caught up in it. And from there, you're just trying to spot an opening and weave your way through it, because there's so much chaos happening. You really can't keep track of everyone. So it's kind of just pick a spot and pray.
Well, here's the driver that tried to pray through it all. The 94 of Jesse Whittington. You see Sean Kalis get spun around, and that is absolute calamity. And somehow the ShareStrape.com Camaro and makes his way through. He's had the C's part right in front of him. One of those that was involved at the bottom end of the situation was the 47 of Isaac Mock. It should not be enough damage to take him out of this race, but any sort of damage at super speedways is certainly hurtful. And here's a look on the pink and yellow number 47, Isaac Mock on the bottom side of the racetrack, and this is his view of the accident.
He's going to go to the bottom. This sometimes is a good place to be, but unfortunately gets a little caught up. Very small hits, though. So I think the 47 is going to get away with it. He's going to lose some track position. That's not the worst thing in the world as long as you've got a clean car, which it looks like he does.
So the 47 will continue, thankfully so, and we'll see exactly how he settles down all this. He is going to stay out. We do have some drivers that are coming in, and I believe make that everybody 16th on back that have ended up on pit road, and many of those your front runners at the time before the caution. Colin Forrester, who of course got dealt the brunt of the incident. Steven Stempian, who got a tag of the outside wall. Ray Rogers with damage. Alex Muscarella on pit road. You've got guys like Brandon Banks, Lawson Peel, Justin Erb among those that are in. Dakota Curtis and a bulk of the field are going to try and stay out here. Looks like we probably will have a couple of laps before the end of this stage. I'm not sure if race control is going to call it here or whether we will just have maybe a 2 or 1 lap dash all the way to the checkered flag of the stage. And now we've got a pretty cool situation for Curtis because, I mean, this is his motive all night long. Run for stage wins, get stage points. He's in that place to do it, but Isaac Mock is also not far behind either. He's 14th, and there's a lot of drivers in this as well. So are we expecting full aggression now before the stage is over?
I mean, if you're Isaac Mock, you need it. You've got to really push your way up to the front. Also, you mentioned Lawson Peel going in. Well, he went to the pit lane. He didn't go to his pit stall. He missed it. So he's going to have to cycle back around if he wants to try and do it again. He's in 16th, so that's actually a bit of a question mark on if he wants to do it, especially depending on what happens on if this is stage or not, because if it's not the end of the stage, he'll get another chance to come in, and it might be worth just to stay out if he's already missed it.
We'll wait for official word on that. We're going to ask our race control, but it appears that it will not be the stage end. So we will run whatever laps we have left until 30, and then we'll throw another caution. So Lawson Peel is not going to come in, so he'll try and stay out for some of that juicy track position. And talk about the Big Bracket Challenge update as of lap number 26. Warren Kyle Keith stayed out on this caution flag. He's up to 11th. Parker Bland, on the other hand, came in, so she is now back to 31st. So give the $200 to Warren Kyle Keith, and now if the race were to end, but still a long way to go. I mean, it's kind of fun to watch how things develop here, Joe, at tracks like Daytona, because on one hand, you can feel like you're at the top of the world, you've got the upper hand, and then all of a sudden later in the race, it just gets either torn out of your hands completely or something goes on where your situation is just the complete opposite. It's so crazy to see just how ruthless this track can be and how super speedway racing is.
With the fact that it's going to go down to who finishes in front of the other, this could completely turn on its head half a mile from the finish line. So yeah, don't take anything for granted if you're either team at this point, and just keep pushing and try to keep out of trouble and make it to the finish. But looks like we're going to get reset and going here, because I think we already have lights off on the pace car.
We do. Lights are off, so we'll go at least 3 or 4 laps before we officially call stage number 1 complete. Dakota Curtis, who has been hanging around the middle and back end of the field all night long, is finally at the top spot after starting 15. Gary Sexton, who's been pretty much up here since the drop of the green, he's going to be on the outside of row number 1, a 0G front row lockout. Austin Shoemaker, Wyatt Brackett, both of them 3rd and 4th. Austin Shoemaker, the season 4 winner here at Daytona. Chris Progrard around at the top 5. Then Ryan Kendall, Jesse Whittington, Chris Shoemaker, Kevin Hurley, Ross Harlow among those to round out the rest of your current top 10. So a couple of laps before we get stage 1 over and done with here from the World Center of Racing. Into the restart zone, Dakota Curtis will go. He's got the early launch. We're back under green from Daytona.
And that was quite a jump up to the front there from the 10. Dakota almost gets a bad bump, actually, from Wyatt Brackett there, but it looks like he's going to get it under control. For those that aren't familiar, we actually don't really want to leap ahead of the group You want to try and pace your start so that you're even with everybody, because they can reel you back in and they're just going to drop you like a bad habit as somebody goes down below the yellow line. And a big problem there. I think that was Sexton.
And there were 2 hits dealt to the back bumper of the 13. One that almost got him fully around. A second that could have easily done the same. Brackett's going to back off here. He's going to be the 4th car on the inside lane. But a huge scare with around 3 laps left to go in stage number 1. The 13 car stays intact. He will try and push his teammate Curtis to the line first. He will, but the 14 of Austin Shoemaker is ahead of steam. Chris Progar right behind him.
Also, Isaac Mock is still close to the top 10 here, so not doing too badly, as we're going to check in with Dakota Wilson now on the high side. We don't have very many laps left before we are done with this stage. Quick dive to the bottom, very decisive stuff with his spotter telling him there's an opening.
Largest mover of the race thus far, 31st on the starting grid, and he's inside the top 10. He's got a lot of space, though, to Wyatt Brackett, so he can just hang around for the moment. He does need some more help, and so does everybody else on the bottom, because the outside has the most patrons up there at the top side of the banking, it appears, for the moment. That 14, though, would not have enough to get to the side of neither the 13 nor the 10 car. Caution flag is out. Lap number 28. And was that for incident on track, or was that the stage end?
You know, I have to check. Let me see, because that is very strange that that shouldn't be the stage caution, but I'm not seeing anybody. And that was race control that threw the yellow. That is highly unusual.
So no carnage on a caution. Lap number 29, Dakota Curtis will have the lead. He'll slow down, pick up the iRacing official pace car. We'll get confirmation as to whether this is going to be stage in, and I'm certain this is. We're basically already at lap 30, so we should just get to the moment where Dakota Curtis will take away a stage win here at Daytona, and that is paramount to his chase for the top 16, and he was in the most favorable situation, Joe Peak, for stages like these, because he's only 6 points out of 16th place Isaac Mock. So it's going to be really fruitful here. 10 points to Dakota Curtis, and he will bring him to lap number 30. We'll pick up the pace car, who I believe is around the back straightaway. There it is at the exit of turn 2, just a little bit off of this camera right here. And so the 10 car will pick it up. Everybody else will slow down, and that should be Joe Peak. Stage 1 over from Daytona. That was quick.
Yeah, we're getting word that it was a clerical error, so that was not planned, but it is what it is. And yeah, that gives Curtis the stage win. Works to his advantage, but Isaac Mock going to be needing to do something in these next few, because that's going to be points chipping away at his chance to get into the postseason.
So everybody will pick up the pace car, and now we'll officially get the confirmation about pitting, which we should see everybody do it. And interestingly enough, what those guys 16th on back are going to do, whether they're going to try and come in or whether it's just a matter of not going in and staying out just for track position. It's going to be really interesting to see, and we see this 13 sort of flirt down to that double yellow line. We'll see the 10 float down there as well. We'll see your leaders come in, and we'll watch everybody around 17th on back and see if they're going to stay out. It looks like Kip Easley, who's actually 14th, is going to lead those that are going to remain out on track, but it's not that many drivers. Basically everyone in, Joe Peak, for what should be their first round of service for almost all of them.
Yeah, so Easley and Schoonover, I think. No, Adcock is going to stay out. Mahar and Erb, and all of them pitted before. Sean Kalis and Dustin Reeves can be added to that. So these are all drivers, these 7 that pitted during that first yellow. So that's what they were trying to do there, is now they've got that out of the way. Now they're going to be a little bit short fuel-wise, but since we know that, you know, it's going to be at the end of lap 60 for the next stage, they should be able to pretty easily, I think, make it to that. So I think this is a good call. They're not going to be put out. It's going to get themselves track position and hopefully a little bit more out of the chaos.
So the 13 of Gary Sexton, all those drivers are coming in now, and they got to the back end of the field. Kip easily would take control of the race for the first time tonight. He was around second place on the inside line at this point, but he's going to be at the front when we get to the green flag. Sunoco Cup Series action from Daytona continues on the other side for more of the Fastenal 330.
What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Fuller.
Yeah.
Needed F-150 for Smith build.
Got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide. Even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
There is Max Papis in the Ferrari. As great a race as Ferrari has ever won.
Steering wheel for me has always been a sensitive spot. There's a whole experience there that we're all trying to refine. Max Pappas, he asked me one day, he said, what can I do in a wheel? I said, well, with the new.
What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Welcome back to the Fastenal 330, ready for the restart at lap 33 to kick off stage 2 here for season 6 of the Sunoco Cup Series. Green flag back in the air in the hands of Kip Easley, and the 8 car stayed out under that stage caution. He's got Bill Schoonover behind him, Aaron Adcock in third, Joseph Mohar and Justin Erb to round out your top 5. Joe Peak, this field has severely shaken up with the cautions that we've seen thrown, and now we've got a lot of guys who basically didn't have a chance to be at the front, now having a shot at it.
Exactly. So this is probably going to change the complexion quite a bit. And I did see some of those drivers that were up at the front before very quickly darting around on that restart to try and get themselves track position. Guys like Gary Sexton look like they are eager to move their way back to the front. They like being up there. So I wonder what's going to happen if he gets there. Are we going to see a bit of a dogfight?
Stage winner was Dakota Curtis, him and Gary Sexton there on the outside lane. It looks to be 8th and 10th right now in the scoring. A bit of a checkup on the inside. And Aaron Adcock in the 23 surges to the lead. Boy, well, that was a push by the 46 of Joseph Mohar. That could have easily been catastrophic and almost got a little hairy there, but they seem to be okay. We'll see Sean Kalis lead the guys up at the top, one of those that was involved in our first big crash of the night before the stage caution was thrown. Some shaking down the back straightaway. It's getting antsy.
Yeah, and you really don't want that at this stage. It's just too early to be doing some silly stuff. Obviously, there are those we know that are motivated to try and get to the front here, but like I always say, risk versus reward here. You got to weigh what is it worth in this situation. Mahar still kind of looking back and forth. Now, when you see cars poking out, it's not just for visual. Usually what they're trying to do is trying to get some air on the car. These things don't have regular radiators. They need the air flowing through them. So when they're poking their nose out, they're trying to cool it so that they don't overheat the car.
Yeah, it's a big strategy to have here at these larger tracks, and one that has bitten some of the competition in this series. Look at defending champion Lawson Peel. Back in Atlanta, he was running way up front, sort of aggressive, but running well. And then poof, his motor was gone, and he was out of the race before he even knew the case. And so you really have to be mindful of what kind of situation you're in the middle of the draft, and of course how much air you're getting to that nose and the radiator. Bill Schoonover shuffled up to the top side, so he takes over the lead on the outside lane with Sean Kalis, but really no momentum given to either of them. And I'm surprised, Joe, we probably expect to see the outside have the most momentum and lead the inside by maybe 3, 4, 5 cars, but we're seeing quite the opposite. The bottom lane has been the better one so far. Just really surprised that we've seen that change.
Yeah, before it was pretty even. I didn't think there was much to pick between them. I think that's still the case. It just seems like that top line is no longer as organized as it once was, because they're all kind of fallen by the wayside. Bottom line has just been getting nose to tail here. Everybody's lining up, making sure to work together. And the more, it's almost a momentum thing. The more you see that bottom line move, the more drivers are going to try and duck down into it. So the less drivers you have up the top, the less speed they're going to have. So it just kind of is that negative feedback loop.
And if you're a driver on the outside, Joe, would you really want to stay up there knowing just how much momentum there is on the bottom? Or are you just going to stay faithful that at some point guys are going to move up there and notice how much speed you can carry when you've got enough organization, as Kip Easley just did now?
Depends on who you have working with you and what you feel like is like, if you're working for long-term or short-term here. If you're working long-term, I'd say go ahead and stick with it and see if you can get something working. If you're going for short-term, yeah, get down to the bottom, because that's the one that's moving, and at the very least, you're going to lose fewer positions. But like you saw, it can change quickly. You mentioned Kip Easley jumping up to the front. They got a couple more now. It's always tempting when you see that line beside you that has dropped back a little bit. You know, I can move to the front of that thing, and I can get that track position if we can all get rolling.
And then you also sort of counter in the factor that there's no fuel concerns. You can go 30 laps without having to come into pit road. We saw that in stage number 1. We didn't see anybody pit other than just to top off and play a track position game by the time we got the stage 1 caution at lap 30. But for the most part, you're good on fuel. You can make it all the way to the end of the stage, at least for the first 2. Then the third one, you really have to worry just a bit. So then it just probably gives you more of an incentive to push forward, right? And just want to be at the front of the field and be aggressive. Guys like Dustin Reeves and Austin Shoemaker, who haven't really seen the spotlight all night long, they got the chance to do so, and they're going to gun for it, because why not? No other incentive other than just being up front and just having a bit of fun leading the race. So far, that has not been the case, but we've got another jumper to the top side. Make that Justin Erb, side drafting the leader on the back straightaway. Can he take the lead away?
Yeah, and there you go, changed around just like that. So the 20 now on the point, getting some help there from Dustin Reeves as they're going to come off of turn 4. And you're right about the fact that they're stage racing completely changes the complexion of the strategy. You do get the chance to be a little bit more aggressive if you want that, because you don't have to worry about the fact that you're pushing the air, that you need to maybe potentially save fuel, because that's not an issue at this point in the race. Now, that's not to say that that could be valuable getting that information towards the last end if we get a lot of green flag racing, but there's no guarantee on that. We could still have cautions in that last stage that break it up.
And when you have short runs, right, just adds for those drivers further back in the field to do something differently and just chop their way up to the front. It's sort of the part of super speedway racing that we always sort of see, those underdog drivers and those who maybe aren't having the best of seasons or having the best of tracks thrown their way as of late. Then they all of a sudden pop off at these larger tracks, knowing they have sort of an even spread amongst them and everybody else in terms of chances to win. Dakota Curtis has swooped up to the top. He was helped by his teammate Gary Sexton up until that point, saw the momentum shift and said, all right, let me move my way up there. Again, the winner in stage number 1, looking for the same in stage number 2, and this is monumental for the 10 car, the way he has turned this race around, because look at the right side of your screen. He has got 19 points above the next car, the 47 of Isaac Mock, who hasn't been having the best race up until this point. He's currently in 20th. The 10 making numbers work for his favor right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see if Mock is going to start to get a little bit more aggressive, because this is slipping through his fingers, and it could be that maybe he's actually thinking about, better to go for the win, so I don't need to push it now, because the win will absolutely seal it. But that's a bit risky. That's putting all your eggs in one basket. If I was him, personally, I think it'd be worth trying to fight forwards a little bit and try and get some more stage points, because clearly you're being outrun by your competitors points-wise right now.
Yeah, even worse so, Isaac Mock wasn't even in the top 10 for stage number 1, so he didn't pick up any points for running where he was at the time of that caution. Here is Ross Harlow in the 5 car, one of those who requested an end-of-line penalty to start this race, but it's been a pretty decent move up to the field, and it's the first time we see the 5 car in the top 10, rolling behind the 7 of Chris Progar, and now up front, the 13 of Sexton will join his teammate. Curtis almost tapped the outside safer barrier. That was really close, and for Harlow, he's just going to scoot on by.
Yep, as long as the car is whole and as long as you keep going, that's the end result is what's important here. As going to be led by Adcock there at the bottom. It's interesting seeing that 23, who was kind of one of the front runners for the first part, and he's gotten right back to that and seems to be pretty eager to try and be up at the front, especially since now that we don't have Gary Sexton here yet. He is getting very close. He's already in 5th place and second in line on that top line.
You know, sometimes you can't stop the aggressor, and that 13 of Sexton has been the aggressor throughout this point. It's worked, and he's a very clean super speedway racer, so despite his aggression, he is not just recklessly ramaging through the field. It's really more so of a methodical, pinpoint accurate swoop through the drivers that are in front of him. He's going to push the 46 of Joseph Mohar to the front of the outside lane. He's going to try to get a little closer to those guys wrapping the bottom inside the top 3. And you talk about the 23 of Aaron Adcock, Joe Peak, a driver who has found a lot of success at these larger tracks for Big Fish Motorsports. Even if you look beyond Talladega Super Speedway, where he led only 2 laps to win that race, at Atlanta Motor Speedway to kick off the year, the rookie driver came home in 6th place from 21st on the grid. Adcock with a way better starting position in 2nd, and he is proving that he can run well at these larger tracks. He's got the lead in command. Here's a look on board with him.
Yeah, nice little push from behind, and thankfully the car behind them, Progar, saw what was happening, and he didn't try and get in it. Now they've got some lap traffic. This is Colin Forrester. He's doing the right thing. He's staying up to the high side. This is the usual etiquette that's expected of lapped cars, just trying to stay out of the way. And is that Adcock going in?
Yes, Aaron Adcock is pitting. And this is an interesting call. He's gone 20 laps on his stint in fuel. He went over the radio, and I imagined at first that would have been to acknowledge Colin Forrester, tell him maybe, hey, go on the outside lane. We're going to just get to you on the bottom and just make sure that was a clean situation. But he is coming in, and he is taking his gloves off. So is that Aaron Adcock out of tonight's race?
Now, if you do this right, you can maybe just... No, he is. He's done. He is disconnected. That's Adcock over.
So unfortunate for Adcock, and we're going to have to deal in the reason why he has decided to leave this race early, either by a time decision or what, but it looks like off of our race control, Josh Lokenvid says that Adcock and Miller, Justin Miller in the 22, who we saw disconnect earlier tonight, both of them have exited the race because a tornado is heading in their direction. We are sending the best wishes to both Justin Miller and Aaron Adcock. We hope they stay safe. We hope everything's okay with some of the severe storms that is somewhat hitting the Midwest as it stands, but a really good run by Aaron Adcock up until this point. We wish him and Justin Miller again well, and we hope they're safe, much like Miranda and his family. We hope they're safe as well off of the storms that have hit them as of late. Gary Sexton in turn takes the lead away. He's got his teammate Dakota Curtis with him, but they've got a severe list of cars behind them that are trying their best to get to the front.
And I'm seeing a lot more slicing and dicing out there as well. You've got to be very heads up, because if you accidentally give a bump to somebody that makes a sudden move, you can hook them very easily. Jumping down to the bottom here, the 9 of Schoonover. I was going to say, I don't know where he thinks he's going. The 20's way, way back there. He's going to hook up with him eventually, but he's dropped a few spots before that eventually happens, and now he's going to get some pace picking up. I don't know about that decision.
It's going to take a while, though, for sure, for them to really get up to the front drivers, because that outside is so cohesive. They are not dysfunctional at all. The bottom side, they're just taking some of their steps to get together. They're sort of in a rough patch right now at that double yellow line, so we'll keep an eye on them. They do have a lot of drivers behind them, so no doubt about it, they can make a case for the front. It's just the way that they've been in that line, a little bit sort of in and out, sort of ebbed and flowed a little bit too aggressively, so it's been tough for them. But for the 13 of Sexton, he's going to stay out in front, and it looks like when we cross the line, Joe Peak will be about 10 laps away from the end of stage number 2, lap 60. Finally, the inside line has got something rolling their way. The 9-car of Schoonover on board with the Nitro Motorsports Camaro into turn 3.
Yeah, nice push there from the 20 behind him. As Justin, and the 14 is going to say, all right, that looks good enough for me. Shoemaker is going to get to the bottom, and so is Gary Sexton, although only briefly. Now he comes back down, just trying to keep them. Oh, that's a late move. He just about turned himself.
And it was a really late block. And with these curved next-gen back bumpers, you do not want to play with that. You don't want to mess around and find out, as we've seen that famous meme chart from, I don't know how many months ago. But nonetheless, Gary Sexton holds on the bottom. His teammate takes over the lead, but just by a hair. Ryan Kendall will give him the support. And Sean Kalist, what a run for the 43. That SK Sim Racing Ford Mustang started 26th, was in a spin involved in that first big one, and here he is inside the top 5. Again, talking about, Joe, the drivers that weren't having the greatest of races up until now. At this point, having a shot at it, Kalist is doing the most of where he is for the moment.
Absolutely. Things, I think, ratcheting up a notch here in this second stage of the evening. And we're really witnessing it here as drivers are making moves maybe a little bit more out of desperation, a little bit more high risk at this point. We are breaking up, we should also mention, because Logan Sturgeon is leading a group of cars. No, Stympian is actually behind them. And then we've got a third group back with Warren Kyle Keith at the front of them. But pretty much all on the lead lap. Only Colin Forrester is off the lead lap out of all of our 33 cars still running.
And we've had some of those DNFs. We talked about Aaron Adcock, Justin Miller. Richard Swavely is also a DNF. Brad Fulham is 26 laps down and counting as they will cross the stripe here. He is still on, though, but he's on pit road, and he's been there for about 27 minutes. He's repairing his car and I guess just trying to wait for the moment where he can finally get back out on track. Your leaders have hit the bottom. Whoa, big stack up. And around the midfield, Joseph Mohar tapped a couple of cars. There was in the middle, 3 wide, the 43 of Kalist. It taps the barrier on the outside and will drop significantly through the field. It got a little chippy there, but we're okay.
Everybody's still rolling. Top side is completely dissipated. They've got 3 cars up there right now. Mahar, Rogers, and Hurley, the only ones left up on the top side. Everybody else is evacuated to the bottom, and we're closing down on things. The other thing we have to remember is that it is 5 laps to the stage. If we hit that point, then that ends the stage. So you do have to be aware and probably want to be fighting up towards the front of that group, even if the stage isn't over, so that you can just cover off that possibility.
And based on your point situation, you also want to have points for stage and just have that advantage over guys that maybe aren't in that position, or just to even out with those who are around you for that cutoff line. Joseph Mohar just absolutely rocketed to the front of the field. Remember that disjointed nature of that top side? They finally got it together, and it is working. Ray Rogers in the 11 pushes the 46 almost to the lead before turn 1.
Yeah, it seems you really cannot give up completely on that other line. As soon as drivers see a chance, they're trying to hop in there, and it works fairly well, pushing up to the front. So I'd say both high and low are equally viable tonight. It's just more about who do you hook up with, and how good of a push do you do?
46 will get the shot on the rear end from the 11. A little bit of a swerve there on the back straightaway, but into turn 3 seems to be all good. Kevin Hurley is also in this group, one of those guys fighting for the top 16 for the playoffs after tonight's race is over. It's the highest we've seen him running this evening. He started in 20th and has been pretty much at the back of the field since the drop of the green, but now is his chance to get some stage points over Dakota Curtis, who seems to be distancing himself further from everybody else and saying, I am making the playoffs no matter what, and I'm going to be determined to do so. As the 46 drops off the pack just a little bit, Justin Erb will have that momentum, and we'll see if anybody else will come up there, but it seems like the answer is no. But again, keep in mind, Joe Peak, drivers who are inside the top 30 still have a shot to get into the playoffs. It doesn't matter if you're behind the top 16. If you win, you're in, as long as you're within that top 30 group. And that means that some of the guys in here are below the top 16, but if they win, their entire scenario changes. That includes Austin Shoemaker, who moves up to the top.
Absolutely, and that's where it makes this such a diabolical race to have as your last one before the postseason, because, like you said, pretty much anybody has a good opportunity to take the win here. So with so many drivers still viable for the postseason, almost everybody is going to have the motivation to try and get up to the front and snatch that win. I mean, racers always are going to want to try and take that victory, but this is even more so.
He's going to have the momentum off of the 46 out of turn 4. It's where he can really gain a lot of momentum. Chris Shoemaker, he is also heading for the pit lane, but this is all by himself. So just a couple of laps before we conclude stage number 2. We keep an eye on whether that is also going to be a DNF or whether this is just a call for the pit lane to fuel up before we get the end of the stage. Single file on the bottom end of the track. Shoemaker's losing a lot of ground up there.
Yeah, top line seems to have had a little bit of a hiccup, and they're falling backwards in a hurry. We've seen it already. I'm sure they can make it up, but they don't want to have that happen too many more times. They want to be kind of in with a shout here. You want to be positioning yourself. So they're going to try and make sure that they're close to even with the front. They don't have to be right there or ahead. But I'd say if you're more than 4 cars behind that lead, that's going to make life a little bit more difficult, especially because pretty much any of those 4, anybody in front of you on that bottom line can then leap in front of you.
It's a peculiar situation and one that can play to your disadvantage. And we're also looking at this 14 car who's leading the top. Maybe a reason why he also hasn't been as quick is because he's got some right front damage. It isn't really significant nor that noticeable, but if you take a closer look at it, it is there. You'll see it probably on this camera angle right about there. You can see a little crinkle there on the right front. That hurts you, Joe Peak, drastically at these super speedways. He's got help. Now that he's got Justin Erb in front of him, it sort of weighs the pressure a little less on him and on his shoulders. But I mean, when you're leading that group and you've got damage, aerodynamically, you're at a disadvantage, and that's tough for the 14.
Yeah, it means you can't lead the front group usually. You need to be the pusher most times because you're not going to be able to get the max speed. I don't like the looks of some of these bumps that I'm starting to see here. This is, I fear we might get a yellow before we're supposed to for the stage.
Chris Shoemaker, lap car in front, and yes, you're right, they are really aggressive on the bumping side of things, on the back straightaway, and over the last lap or so, they want the chance at those juicy stage 2 points, especially if your guys like Dakota Curtis, Austin Shoemaker, all of those who are still fighting for top 16 in the points. Off of turn 4 for the triangle, Justin Erb has the lead. The 14 tries his best to get to second, but caution flag is out. Stage 2 is over here from Daytona.
Wow, so that comes down to it, but Justin Erb doing a good job. Dakota Curtis, though, once again, second in those top 10 for the stage points. That's going to hurt Isaac Mock, who wound up 30th, so he's well outside of those points. His main hope now has got to be going for the win. I don't think he's got much else hope other than potentially seeing Curtis wreck out in the last stage. And it's the thing with racing is that, yes, you can hope for things to happen, but I always go back to one of my favorite quotes from another commentator on IndyCar way back in the day. Luck is a bad strategy. It's better to have things in your hands and control your own destiny.
That's definitely true. Caution flag is out, and we're going to try and update the points, see exactly who's in the mix for the top 16. We've been sort of looking at it all night long, and it's somewhat been pretty difficult to try and get all the points in. We're looking at a spreadsheet. We're trying to update that constantly, so we'll see who's in and who's out. But with Dakota Curtis's performance, no doubt about it, he is in. And really, the first two stages might have just either locked his position in or just given him that upper hand. It has been really good for him so far. I mean, take a testament to where he started this race. 15th, hanging around the Hornet's Nest, sort of there all night long. His aggression has paid off, though, and this is where he stands.
It has, absolutely. Now, this one should be a lot more straightforward. Pretty much everybody should be pitting in this time, but let's see. Shoemaker, we know, pitted 4 laps ago, so he's probably going to stay out. He'll get some of that track position, and everybody is going to have to pit before this is over. It's just he's going to have a little bit smaller of a window compared to all of his rivals, and that's pretty much it. I'm trying to see. Yeah, everybody else has been pitting pretty much at the same time, so should be most everybody being in the same boat except Shoemaker, and that could play a part, but I'm not anticipating it being completely game-changing. We'll keep an eye on it.
Maybe won't, maybe will, but for the moment, everybody else is coming in, and this is around the halfway marker of the entire race, lap number 62. Gary Sexton is coming in 4 tires. He's lifting up the right side of the race car. He's going to get some fuel, and he's also going to lift up the left side. So 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles for Gary Sexton at a 14.5-second stop. It is not enough to beat Justin Erb to the line. And Justin Erb takes over the lead off of pit road, but Chris Shoemaker, who pitted earlier, is going to stay out. And that will be somewhat of a buffer between himself and everyone else, but for the moment, it seems to be all status quo in the normal factor. Although things can really change here at Daytona. We'll find out what happens in the final stage. You're tuning in to the Fastenal 330 live from the Daytona International Speedway on Podium Esports.
Janice.
What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Fuller.
Yeah.
Needed F-150 for Smith build.
Got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
What I'm really proud is that I own MPI, the steering wheel company, and I'm building the steering wheel. This is my creation.
This is yours?
Yes.
It's so sexy.
The steering wheel, it's a very unique thing. It's shaped on the hand of Scott Dixon.
His hand.
Yeah. This grip has a 27% more grip feel than suede. Scott in the race is gonna make less effort when he drives. When you're in the car, he's like having 40-pound dumbbell like this, maybe more in the car.
For how long?
3.5 hours. You know, average heart rate in the car, never below 150. Never below 150. You need to be a real athlete to drive. Yeah. They exercise every day. So this is my creation. Amazing. And we did.
What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Back from Daytona International Speedway, coverage of the Fastenal 330 in the Sunoco Cup Series is brought to you by sksimracing.com. sksimracing.com has been a proud sponsor of the Sunoco Cup Series and offers a wide variety of services to get you up on your sim racing game. For sim racing products, Kayla Synthetic Samsoil, and all the latest news around the sim racing world, find out more at sksimracing.com. Green flag in the air, stage 3 of the Fastenal 330 underway on Podium Esports. Chris Shoemaker, Justin Erb to the green flag for turn 1, and Joe Peak, that 4 car pitted earlier, looked like an unscheduled stop, but it may have just been by design with the way things have turned out. He's got the lead and a push from Sexton into turns 1 and 2.
Yep, like I said, usually if you want to try and stay out of trouble, you want to be up on the point, and that might be what we're seeing out of him. Now, the thing is, we're only at the halfway mark of the race, so he still has a long way to go, and there can be a lot of shuffling. He could still find himself pushed to the back. We'll see if he's aggressive. If he is, he's going to have good company, because we've seen Sexton be very aggressive as well.
And talk about the fact that we have another half of this race left, and that was a fantastic point. Now it's a dramatic shift from what we've seen in the first half. You had 2 30-lap stages, no worries about fuel. Track position seemed to be the biggest key, but now you've got the longest stint of the race. We've only seen 1 caution for on-track incident. How do you play this situation out now if you're one of those behind the wheel?
I say at this point, it's more about trying to make sure we get some good green flag racing. Well, and Gary Sexton is going to be diving up to the high side here as Ray Rogers follows him. And this is what I was talking about. You can easily lose these positions if you're Shoemaker. It's going to be tough depending on who you've got with you. He probably needs a buddy, because I think Gary Sexton, working with the Zero-G teammates up to now, has looked pretty difficult to try and stay ahead of. He seems super intent on being at the front, so Shoemaker's going to have to try and find someone to hook up with.
And one thing I've noticed too is that we haven't seen teammates really get together all that much. We're not seeing big clusters of drivers that are all a part of the same camp. No, we're seeing a lot of diversity throughout the field, because Gary Sexton, he's a Zero-G driver, and yes, he has been working with Steven Stempian, Dakota Curtis, his teammates, all night long. If you look at the situation he's in now, he's around the 11 car of Ray Rogers for RTR Motorsports. He's got the 4 car of Chris Shoemaker for Prestige Worldwide Racing. Justin Erb in this group as well. He's on a team of his own too, with the likes of his team. It doesn't seem to say a team in TOW Racing, actually. And then you've got the 5 car of Ross Harlow for SKM, the 46 car for SK Sim Racing. There are so many drivers from each and every perspective of the Sunoco Cup Series that are all bunched up together. It's made the journey to the front pretty hard if you're looking at finding respect or finding friends. Justin Erb surges to the front on the back straightaway for the lead.
There was some sketchy moves there on the tri-oval portion. Driver is almost having to dive out of the way so that they didn't get turned. Again, I feel like this needs to be a bit more towards, let's just get closer to the finish. Let's get down to those 20 laps to go. Yes, you want to try beat up at the front. Wow, there are some very fast moves, and there it is. 46 is going to get turned, and this is going to collect everybody.
Right into the middle of the field, a huge stack up, and multiple cars are involved. Chris Progar, one of them, the 46. the one who kicked it all off, the catalyzer to bring us our second on-track incident in this Fastenal 330. Caution out at Daytona, and here's how it happened. Miscommunication on the lines as Justin Erb gets moved up the track. The 46 does as well, and the 11 is there to turn him around.
And they've given Progar an EOL for this incident, but yeah, just some patience goes a long way in this style of racing, and I understand everybody wants to be up at the front, but you've got no more stage bonuses from here. If you're in the top 10, you're okay. You don't need to be at the very absolute front unless you're seeing guys make stupid decisions like this, and then in that case, I'd almost say go to the back. Don't mess around with knuckleheads. Just worry about your car and then look towards 20 to go.
At that point, you could really just slow down and avoid making contact with that 46, who appears was going to come down and probably thought that Rogers was going to give that courtesy and back off. I mean, sometimes you can expect that from drivers just with the way they drive and obviously the respect level, but the 11 car just stays where he is, planted on the bottom, and gets that move on the 46. And then around Mahar went and got a bunch of drivers with him. Damage for Rogers, Progar, a bit for the 3 car, James Kunkel. You look at some for the 4 of Chris Shoemaker. Ross Harlow almost about got put in that incident. Had to go for a slide through the road course, pit road access grass. And he somehow gets away from it. But again, like I mentioned, Joe Peak, our second on-track incident. I mean, I don't want to say that this is going to breed more cautions, but every time I point out the first caution in a long time, there always seems to be more. So I don't know what to think.
Well, and also apologies to Progar. He asked for that EOL, so that wasn't given to him in penalty. But you got a few takers here into the pits. This is interesting. And we know that they need at least one more stop. This is way too early. So wonder if these are just some drivers trying to cover things off in case we do get green flag stops. Because what you can do here is if you and a couple of your friends stop now, you can all pit in and have a slightly shorter stop and get out faster than some of the others who have stayed out. So I think that's what we're seeing. Not everybody is pitted in, so there are some that are going to risk it and try and stay out on the track here. So this is going to split things up somewhat.
And I'm seeing SKM drivers collectively pit, Drinking Bros Racing drivers collectively pit, although they only have, by the way, 2 drivers in their field. Joe Sanchez not here tonight, just Brandon Banks and Lawson Peel. But I mean, you're right. If these guys can get those extra drops of fuel, green flag stops are going to be that much easier, and you don't have to really go with the entire burden of wasting a lot of time on the pit lane. And big note of that is a lot of drivers that did come down this time are many of those in the back of the field. These guys are all wanting to alternatively change their race. They want to be up front. They just haven't had the opportunity to do so. Is this decision the big turnaround? Now, obviously, the caveat for that is that there's some that are just coming in for damage repair. They know they were caught up in that incident. They kind of have no other choice. But for strategy's sake, those guys who have been clean all race long, Joe, it might just be a very favorable position now that we've got this caution.
Yeah, you got to be clever out here, and that I think is honestly a good call for some of these guys. If we wind up getting yellows, you're not out as much. Yes, you've lost some of the track position, but if you feel like you've got the speed, you can try to push your way back forward. But if it does go green, then I mean, what did you lose? A couple positions out there that you're going to make up big time, because if you save, let's say 5-6 seconds and your pack has broken away, you can drop those cars behind. And the big thing about super speedway racing, if you're fighting with 6 cars for the win as opposed to 20 cars, that's a lot easier to deal with.
It's a strategy move that can work, and there's nothing more dangerous, Joe Peak, than a driver who's got nothing to lose. If they've been at the back all race long and they can be aggressive, at this point they probably don't care what happens with what they do. They just want to put the foot all the way to the floor and go for the front positions. If you've been watching our broadcast of the Fastenal 330 from the Daytona International Speedway, then we certainly appreciate you taking your time to join us this evening. If you're just tuning in now, boy, what a race we've had. This is our second on-track incident caution of the race. Our first 2 stages went like this. We saw Dakota Curtis take away the lead in stage number 1. He won the 10 points, but then Justin Erb responded with a stage win of his own in the second stage. He leads this race right now. We're on our third and final stage with 55 laps to go. We will decide the 16 that make the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs in 2023 right here after this checkered flag is waved. And Joe, looking at the standings as it goes through, we've calculated the points, and we'll take a look on the right side of our screen. The cutoff battle, 15 points. Dakota Curtis, Isaac Mock, our biggest focus, and they've been topsy-turvy all night long.
Yeah, right now Dakota is still in it. He's fallen down to about 10th or 11th position, and Isaac Mock is not too far behind him. So it's a little closer, but it's still pretty well in favor of the 10 car. So I think he's sitting pretty good here. And honestly, if he stays ahead of Mock, that makes life super simple. All he has to do is be ahead of him, and he knows he's going to be able to beat him. Now, granted, he could still get sniped by a couple others, but I think his main rival right now has to be that 47.
I mean, you look at the 25, the 14, the 24, they seem to be out of reach in terms of points. They're going to either need a win or need something to severely turn in their favor. But as of the front is concerned, Justin Erb, Gary Sexton planted on the floor. We're back under green with 54 laps remaining, and a big jump out by Justin Erb. Will that come over to bite him by turns 1 and 2?
Now, if I'm on the box for some of these drivers, I'm telling them, let's just cool it down. We don't need some crazy stuff like we saw before. Just let the race come to you. And if they start doing that again, drop to the back. Stay with that lead group, but just give them ground that you can get on the binders. You can get off the gas if something starts to happen, and you could try to avoid the mess, because you don't need to be leading this race for the next 30 laps or so.
And strategy, if you're staying out in front, you're wasting the most fuel. Got to think about that as well. The Zero G teammates, by the way, are back together, but they finally have numbers in terms of their teammates. Dakota Curtis, Stempian, and Sexton are all together. This is the first time we've seen them three all collectively work together on track. We've only seen 2 of them at a time. Now we've got our full-fledged 3. Wyatt Brackett has taken notice. He's going to jump up to the top. He'll try and take the lead away from Justin Erb out of turn 2.
This is looking good right now. There's a lot of cars that are looking like they're just ready to kind of sit in rows and tick some laps off, so that's a good sign. Going to get another push from Sexton, though. He does like to be up at the front, but he's a little farther, so hopefully we won't see him try to do anything too wild here. Being second in line is not the worst thing in the world.
And just wants to hang back.
We got a
Caution
caution.
flag is out. We do have a caution out on the speedway. And Joseph Mahar seems to be the one in trouble. He's on the road course bus stop back straightaway, but he's been on the apron. But I reckon with no other severe problem on track, especially with the main drivers up front, this is the reason why we're getting the yellow. And we'll officially get word from Race Control, but Race Control did not throw it, Joe. So that was an iRacing yellow. That had to have been for that 46, because he was limping it and actually spun around at the exit of the pit lane before turn 1.
Yeah, I just noticed that myself. I went and investigated because I wondered maybe he blew an engine and he was hoping that he could limp it back or something. But the car was crabbing as he came out of pit lane. It's almost like he repaired it the minimum amounts and it wasn't drivable, and he was just trying to get it back in. But unfortunately, the iRacing service just decided he was too much of a danger and decided to throw the yellow. So that's going to slow us down once again. Really not sure what is going on with Mahar that he came out with the car in that condition. I didn't even think you could do that, because usually you've got a black and orange flag if the car is driving like that says it's too dangerous, you have to come in and pit. But he must have been doing just some optional repairs, and the car just wound up in a very awkward spot after those optional repairs.
He towed it after the incident, mind you, and then it just came out, and yeah, it just came out crab walking. It looked exactly like Eric Jones's car at next gen testing earlier this year, or was it last year rather, for the next gen cars. Man, that's been a long time already a year between the next gen's release and now. But the 46, yeah, I'm really surprised the car came out that way, just crab walking. It looked like a Hummer EV with a crab feature as it was going across the racetrack, and iRacing determined that it was a little too dangerous. And it's also surprising too, Joe, because you often don't see cautions thrown for accidents that happen under the apron. You'd expect that the cautions are thrown for the things that happen between that double yellow line and what happens upwards, but for all the way below the apron, that's rather odd.
Yeah, I'm a bit baffled by that one as well, but we've had some weird things tonight in general, so I guess it's just par for the course. And a couple of drivers coming in, I think mostly just getting repairs here. I don't think that's as much of strategy calls, but looks like we're going to get it racked up once again, and this does help those. This widens the fuel window as well for a lot of drivers, because the more laps we do under yellow, the more laps that we have available to try and stop in and get enough fuel to get to the finish. So we'll see what this does strategy-wise for the drivers, and we'll also have to wait and see if we wind up getting much green flag racing, because unfortunately it has kind of headed towards this yellows breed yellows.
Oh no. Oh no. That saying is so dangerous. When you say yellows breed yellows, we always find ourselves in that situation where cautions come out. I mean, thankfully we've seen a rather clean race tonight from Daytona, but again, unexpected is what to be expected here from tracks like Daytona. With 50 laps to go, we'll cross the line, and you really do make a good point about the fact that these guys can save a little bit on fuel, but also to note, those guys who pitted on that last yellow, they're not far off from these front runners either. 7th place is going to Lawson Peel. He was one of those guys who took a 5.4 second stop for fuel only on his Chevrolet Camaro, and here's their defending champion inside the top 10, and that goes the same for Justin Winters for SKM. He's back in 9th. Kevin Hurley, who's fighting for top 16 points, 28 below the cut line, but he is 11th with his 5.1 second stop. So it's a pretty unique batch of cars that can save now, but ones that can save but also have the advantage for topping off on fuel earlier.
Indeed, and looks like the lights are off, so we're going to get it back going here after another lap. We're already double file and good to go, but checking in to see, yeah, the 46 is actually still sitting and taking repairs. So I think he learned his lesson from that last one. Make sure that it is fully repaired this time.
46 going to double check on his efforts to get his race car back out on track. And as for the number 30 of Wyatt Brackett, he will lead this race. Gary Sexton on his outside in the first row. Now, Wyatt Brackett came home in 8th place in our last super speedway race at Talladega, and then at Atlanta Motor Speedway ended up pretty far back. It wasn't necessarily a great race for him. He finished 35th after starting 25th, but Talladega treated him rather well, and he is running decently tonight from Daytona. Started 21st, but we've seen him oftentimes at the front or at least the mid-pack of the field. And so that 30 car, really he might have something up his sleeve. The Cartoon Network machine will command this field back to the green flag. Good note from our producer Ryan Bauer that Dakota Curtis, by the way, has picked up 19 stage points. That's a huge amount. He was down 6 from the cut line to Isaac Mock. That 47 car has not been in the top 10 for neither stage 1 or stage 2. A difference that stages can make. Curtis has been on that mindset all night long, and it has worked to a T. Pace car is down at the exit of turn 4. Wyatt Brackett and Gary Sexton front row to the green flag with 49 to go.
All right, so let's see what the racing looks like this time now, and especially for someone like Mock, I do believe it's getting to be go time down there in 26th position. Still on the lead lap, mind you, and doesn't need to be up at the front right now, right this second, but definitely needs to start thinking how he wants to do that and start trying to go for the win here, because like you said, 19 points difference there just before they even get to the finish. He needs to try and either snatch that win or hope that Curtis has some sort of trouble befall him.
And he's got to step it up consistency-wise, because he has just been around the half marker of the field, top 15 every now and then, and it has not been good enough. Curtis, on the other hand, has been up at the front, the aggressor with his teammates, a little more comfortable running in the top 5, top 3. And so if you're that 47, you've got to figure things out quickly. 48 to go is still a long way from Daytona, but these laps can wind down quickly when you're running at around 190 miles an hour. One of those that are still in the fight for the top 16 is this one right here, Kevin Hurley in the 25 car, who did pick up stage points in stage 2, came home in 7th, and picked up 4 points on his effort for the top 16, but he's also been hanging around the midfield all night long. Here he is, right behind the 48 of Alex Muscarella.
Yep, and trying to see if he can do something miraculous here at the end as well, as we come to complete lap 78 now. Like you said, still ways to go, and still one more pit stop, I believe, before they're done. Everybody's going to need a little bit of fuel. Boy, that top line getting wiggly a little bit once again, and it's Sexton currently leading up there. So Jesse Whittington kind of giving him the pushes. Wonder if they need to get a little bit more acclimated to each other, because I don't think we've seen those two working together before.
No, we haven't. We really haven't seen a lot of these guys work together, and that's been the really chaotic part about this race. While you've seen Zero-G teammates work together, we've seen some other guys get comfortable. Then you look at Lawson Peel, who's been in the back all race, Justin Winters, Jesse Whittington, Judd Danielson. These guys are getting a little more comfortable with what's to expect at the front, and it's been interesting to watch. One of those as well is the 26 of Logan Sturgeon, who, Joe, at Talladega was the instrumental factor in the win for Aaron Adcock in the 23. So now he's up here, and it's given the chances for these drivers to sort of get warm-up laps, or I guess just get minutes if we're using basketball terms.
Yeah, exactly. And those, like I said, experience. It's all experience. So getting those minutes are going to be really important. It might sound strange to some people. Oof, there's another little wiggle there from the 13. It's, keeps making those late moves. I feel like that's going to bite him eventually. But you have specialists on super speedways. There are drivers that are just better in that realm. And a lot of it comes down to having run a lot of these races, knowing what to expect, how to place the car. At 13, oh my goodness, the blocks that he's making now, he is going to get hooked. I don't think he's going to finish this race.
I mean, it's been rather dangerous seeing that 13, but mind you, he set the tone at the drop of the green. Right when Aaron Adcock went for an outside move, the 13 said, no way, I am keeping this door closed, and I don't care if I have to use Home Depot nails to put it shut. He's going to keep it as shut as possible, and the 13 gets to the lead, although the 94 will try and respond with a run of his own on the inside, helped by Wyatt Brackett, but 13's getting a little comfortable setting those blocks out. And you're right, it's only a matter of time before something goes wrong, but Sexton is confident in his ability. He's going to lead this lap. 44 laps to go.
I got to be careful how much I criticize that 13. That's the guy that signs my paychecks here, so I've certainly been ragging on him, but just not sure about what he's been doing up there with some of these moves. It seemed I could see them in the last 10 laps. You know, I could see trying to make some really aggressive moves like that. It just baffles me that he's been doing it all race long. He's going to dive in front of Ross Harlow now.
There's nothing like being consistent, right, from the top of the race to the bottom, but if it's in 10 laps to go, nobody is going to lift. They are going to send it, and they don't care whether they turn that 13 around. And remember the situation to kick off the year at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Sexton was here, P1, leading the inside lane on the backstretch, then got a faulty bump, and then he went around, caused a caution. That was race over for him. He does not want to be in the same scenario at a place where, you know, he's been performing well at all night long, where he's been at the front, where he has been eager to make blocks and dives for the inside, the middle, or the top. He does not want to ruin his race that way, and hopefully he's learned that from Atlanta, and hopefully he can stay out front clean. Ross Harlow in second. Highest we've seen him all race long into turn 3.
Up on the high side, Judd Danielson's getting a little bit of momentum going. Got quite a few cars actually running on the high line. There you can see in the back there, so 85 kind of charging forward, and I think he's got Warren Kyle Keith with him. Now that's important because the 24 car is another one on the outside looking in that needs that win. So if he can get pulled along to the front of the field, he's got a really good shot here.
This is also the highest we've seen at 24 in this race. He asked for an end-of-line penalty. He officially was going to start 14th. That's why it says it on the lower third, but he asked for an end-of-line penalty, so he dropped all the way to 37th. with Ross Harlow all the way at the back, and that's where they began this journey through 84 laps, and now they are finally at the front. They are looking for that X marker, and that is the race win. For Harlow, it would be his second of the year. For Warren Kyle Keith, it would be his first, but the most important to get him into the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. And what makes things even better for this 24 car, the 48 and the 88 are with him, teammates at Sega Keith Motorsports. The best situation you could be in right now if you're that 24.
Absolutely. Like I said, teamwork is so critical in super speedway racing, and here towards the end, the fact that they've managed to find each other is kind of a bad sign for everybody else. Now, it tends to come down to every man for himself on those last laps. Anyways, as we got a wreck down on the inside.
And that is Chris Shoemaker sideways. He'll move up the track right in front of Isaac Mock in the 47. Caution is out. Dustin Reeves goes for a slide, and the 47 of Isaac Mock gets bad luck in turns 3 and 4 as Chris Shoemaker gets spun. Here's a look at the replay.
So that's 2 of our hopefuls that are right on the cusp, taken out in one swift blow. And that was a late move down to the bottom by the 4. And unfortunately for Isaac Mock, yeah, I mean, you don't really expect it. That's the Spanish Inquisition of wrecks. It's a car zipping up the inside from the infield is not as common there.
Here's a look from Dustin Reeves. He got a piece of this and went sideways, or actually just got ran over from behind. But the 47 of Isaac Mock gets dealt front-end damage from that, and that is significant for the playoff fight. I mean, he's been on the back foot all night long. There's the front-end damage for the 47, and that is tough. Look at that. I mean, that's going to hurt on those straightaways. And when you're out at super speedway where you're foot flat to the floor, that is not good.
Absolutely. So just checking to see who else maybe got some of the damage from that. Oh, this is interesting. Dakota Wilson also got a big piece of that. So that's not going to help that 78 either in that one. As we get ready to come down, and this, 40 laps. They are going to have some of this under caution. It's going to be a little tight. We might actually need to see some fuel saving if we go to green from here.
And will that make it a situation where these guys are going to clutch and coast right after this pit stop? We're seeing drivers take tires. Jesse Whittington, one of those at the front of the field. He is getting 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. The 13 of Sexton also lifting up the right sides. But now we got to pose the question if anyone's going to take 2 or less. And it looks like for Ross Harlow in the 5, that is 7.1 seconds. No tires, fuel only.
In fact, that is the case for a lot of drivers except Gary Sexton. Now that is an interesting call. So he is going to go full 4 tires. Now they have limited tire sets, but especially racing at night here at Daytona, that's kind of a non-issue. Sounds like though, Kenneth, I think you're getting ready to have a little bit of a chat here with Harlow, who's been well up towards the front for quite a while now.
Yeah, let's bring in the 5 of Ross Harlow, who, Ross, you started this race at the back. You had an end-of-line penalty. How has the journey been for you from the very back now to the very front at lap 87?
Oh man, it's been a trip for sure. Had a front row seat to quite a bit of action here, but you know, it's just playing the strategy and trying to make sure we got something for the end here. You know, the SKM boys, we all SK and TOW, Spirit of Daytona. You know, we all work real well together. We all communicate real well together, and we got a lot of talent between the those 3 teams on super speedways. So, you know, it's just a matter of keeping your head, making sure you're in a good spot to be able to make some moves at the end.
Got a lot of culture between those 3 teams, but let's talk strategy. You pit here, you take no tires, 7.1 seconds, fuel only with around 40-39 to go. Are you confident that you're going to make it all the way to the end on this stint?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Probably going to have to do a little bit of fuel saving, but we should be all right here at the very least, you know, without any GWCs. But fuel-wise, we're all in the same boat right now. Leading the line is leading the line. It's going to be a little bit worse for fuel consumption, but we should be okay here.
All right, so final 38 laps of this race. You've got the lead. First time you've seen it. You've got clean air here. what are you expecting when we drop the green? Are you expecting more aggression out of everyone, including yourself, or is there any other situation you see playing out?
I think a few guys that don't necessarily have the help they normally would are going to be pretty aggressive here, just trying to get track position. I'm really, still going to be taking it easy, not going to be throwing any big blocks. It's too soon to be doing any super aggressive side drafting, but going to try to hook up with some teammates and work some magic here.
All right, well, we'll see if you can cook something up for the last end of this race. Ross, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck on the restart.
Yeah, thank you, Kenneth.
So the number 5 of Ross Harlow will have the lead of this race. And it sort of reminds me, Joe Peak, of the XFL kickoffs that they used to do back in 2001, where instead of kicking the ball and having a receiver, they would just have 2 players immediately run for the ball at a certain yardage line. It feels like that's the situation, but with like 34 other people. It's a huge dash for the win.
Yeah, it's a land rush version of it. If anything, it's going to be interesting, and I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see more cautions by the end of the race, and I'm glad he brought up the green-white checkers, because I hadn't even thought about that, and all this talk about the fuel stuff that could really throw a wrench in things towards the end. And based on what we're seeing, I'd be willing to bet that we're going to have 1 or 2.
It's really easy to forget the fact that we can extend this race past scheduled distance. Quick break bracket update here for those $200. Warren Kyle Keith is currently in the winning spot. He is 4th. Parker Bland is back inside the top 10, 10th place position at this green flag restart. At lap number 89, Ross Harlow gets the push from Lawson Peel. We're back underway.
So looking pretty good here at the start, but that high line is pushing very hard. They want to try and get back up there and quickly. And that is Brackett there on the outside that's getting the nice shove from Warren. Kyle Keith still in it, in among this group. And now it's going to be the 12 of Lawson Peel who hooks up as well. And not often that you see drivers pushing completely around the course, but they're getting more and more, I don't want to say aggressive because we've been using that word a lot, but the pushing has been more constant. They're up at the front, and now we're seeing something we haven't seen a lot. 3 wide.
What a move by Gary Sexton, but he's got no help. He is trapped in the sucker hole. He'll try to get back up to the top, but to no avail. He hip checks Justin Erb in the middle of the tri-oval, and somehow this race does not turn to another caution. We will stay green. Sexton is all smile, ear to ear in that situation. He's comfortable where he's at, even with how aggressive he's been all night long, but that really just sort of ticked up that outside lane, and here comes Warren Kyle Keith. He'll try and go for his own.
Oh, and once again trying that 3 wide, almost 4 wide for a brief moment. I don't know if Gary's going to love me or hate me for saying this. He's a little chaos gremlin tonight.
He's been all over the place, but he's made it work for the most part. He had tried to go through the middle, didn't find any help. He's going to try and experiment a little more. He's going to turn up top. Parker Bland's going to send a block. And he's going to try to find some of the draft SKM teammates on the high side. Justin Winters in the 88, Warren Kyle Keith in the 24. SKM hitting the let's go button with 35 to go.
Getting a little bit more sparse there on the bottom. A lot of drivers at the top, but they're not really going anywhere on the high line. They're kind of backed up. They are trying to push, but the bottom line seems to just have the speed at this stage. Yeah, look at them drop.
And they're really organized on the bottom. It's helped them stay content where they're at. That outside has had to work a little more. And when you've got guys like Gary Sexton, Parker Bland, obviously Keith and Winters, who are starting to amp up the moves through the field, some of that miscommunication can show itself immediately, and you'll have drivers get checked up, and you'll have that outside lane not work as well as it could. And that's what allowed the inside lane, who has been more calm on this side of the restart, hold on to the front, but it's not by much. Justin Winters is going to get a monumental run out of turn 2. It's going to bring him to 3rd. Now here jumps up Lawson Peel for the lead.
Yeah, and that's what I had been talking about a little bit earlier in the broadcast, that as soon as you fall behind some of these other cars and you have more than a cars with, someone can easily make that decision to just hop in front of you, and you had all that momentum and it gets blunted, and suddenly you go from being the leader to being second in line.
and Winters is going to have to adjust as Gary Sexton shoots for the middle. He somewhat has help in the form of the 30 of Wyatt Brackett, but he doesn't have enough momentum to make up any spots, so he's going to stay up there. He's going to try to take advantage of what this run has been from the top side. They picked up that 12, and all of a sudden, they've got this race in their favor for now. 32 laps to go when we cross the stripe next, but down the super stretch, Lawson Peel has a lead by 1, 2, 3, make it 4 cars on the inside lane as Gary Sexton jumps down.
It is interesting that we haven't really seen a third lane start to try and form up pretty much at all this whole race. It is possible. It's a little bit harder here at Daytona. Everybody needs to be extra careful since it makes it pretty tight out there. But they've stuck with kind of the 2-lane theory for much of this race. I wouldn't be shocked if the final few laps did see a third lane try to form, just because there's drivers who start to get desperate.
I mean, we have seen as well, Joe, a lot of separation from the inside and the top. We're not seeing a lot of side drafting because they don't want to have that effect just mitigate each line every lap. So you're seeing a lot of distance. You see that wide open middle lane that Gary Sexton has been reaching for as of late. And that's been like that all race long. We haven't seen inside and outside be so close to each other that somebody could just jump up at the lane near the outside wall and say, hey, I'll bring some drivers with me, let's go. They've done an even spread of covering almost every lane on the track to avoid space for cars. And so we haven't seen 3 or 4 wide action. But like you said, Joe, yeah, it could really change here in this last stint. 30 laps to go sooner than later here from Daytona. Sexton has a big run for turn 1. He'll grab it on the inside of Lawson Peel. He's got the nose ahead.
And not by much, though. And there's that momentum around the outside you often see in these style of tracks. So Peel back to the front now. Let's see if he decides to stay with that high line with Winters there in behind him, or is he going to dive in front? He is going to dive in front, and he's going to switch to being in front of Gary.
So your defending champion, Lawson Peel, takes the lead in the Fastenal 330. Going to give you an update from what you're seeing on the right side of your screen. 25 points separate 17th place Austin Shoemaker in the 14 to 16th place in the standings, Dakota Curtis. That 10 car has built up so many points tonight, 19 on the stage, and he's running inside the top 15. So he has potentially gotten this last 16th spot confirmed as we're 3 wide for the lead. Ross Harlow darts through the middle.
Yeah, I think that was, honestly, that looked like Gary getting hung out to dry a little bit. Harlow went back low underneath him after he drifted high and said, thank you very much. I've got the help and I'm going to move forward. They're holding on with that 3 wide, but poor Gary has no friends right now.
And nobody wants to go with him right now. That's been the tale of the tape. He has tried through the middle lane, now through the outside, and nobody has picked him up. He is going to side draft the 18 of Parker Bland. He's going to get back in a line behind the 30 of Wyatt Brackett, so his race is not done quite yet. He's still got a shot at it. But as for the race lead, Lawson Peel loses it to the 5 car of Ross Harlow. He's going to try and pick it up now out of turn 2, but SKM on all cylinders all together on the top for the most part.
Ross with already 1 win, so he is good to get to the championship, and they're going to get turned back there. We're going to see a big wreck. I think Warren Kyle Keith involved in it. Cars getting airborne on this one. Massive incident. Whittington in there. I see Gary Sexton involved. Muscarella. Oh, this is a big one.
And the 85 of Judd Danielson went on his side, flipped over, and landed on all 4 wheels. There he is, coming to rest at the top of the banking in turns 3 and 4. And this is what started the mayhem. It was a move for the middle by Wyatt Brackett, a block by the 24 of Warren Kyle Keith. And when you make those moves in a split decision, I mean, it's so hard to mitigate a problem when you make contact, and that's what happened.
So Warren Kyle Keith will be able to drive through it quite literally, but not without damage. Let's see what the 10 sees. Is he going to get away with it? He tries to get to the bottom, gets a little bit of a touch, and a little, oh no, I think he had some pretty decent damage from those hits. So he's probably not going to get away completely clean. It could have been worse, but that definitely was not ideal.
This is our biggest crash of the night by far. There's Dakota Curtis as the 14 goes swooning on by the 81 of Stepien as we'll look on board with the 24 of Warren Kyle Keith. He was at the forefront of this chaos. So you'll see the 30 car dart down. He goes down. He makes contact. And then look at that hit to the wall by Judd Danielson. That is a vigorous hit. Jesse Whittington, Steven Stepien, there's Rogers and Easley. That is a rough crash and the scariest one we've seen tonight by far.
Got a number of drivers in. I suspect many of these are for repairs. But it looks like Harlow and Peel will stay out since they were in front of it all pretty much, so they have no need. And I think Sean Kalis, Mock is staying out. Wow. So is this turning around? How is Mock's car? Does he still have a lot of damage, or did you get that all repaired?
It seems like he repaired the car. His front bumper seems completely fine, so he spent that time on pit road, and he did not get any damage from that most recent big incident. He was so far back that he could hold on to the brakes, and he had enough time to get away from it all. So his car's okay. He's going to stay out and be in fourth. That may give him the best chance of getting into the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. For Dakota Curtis, he's picked up damage in that incident. He's got right front nose damage, so he'll spend that extra time in.
Wow.
That's big.
Yeah, that changes it all. And we were saying that oftentimes with these things, it can come down even to the last few yards before you get to the finish line, and it can still change. So you unfortunately can't count any chickens here. It's all just got to be wait until the checkered flag, get that final decision on how it all winds up. Isaac Mock could still be in with a shout. And let's see, where is everybody else? We saw Warren Kyle Keith get a lot of damage, so we know he was involved. Where was Hurley and Shoemaker?
It's like Hurley is back in 15th as it stands, and then Shoemaker's up in 10th, but it looks like 7th on back. It's led by Steven Stepien, who came out first at 5.7 seconds stop. A few only. All of them have come into pit road. That is basically the entire field, if you think about it. And that's a lot of drivers to come in and minimal ones to stay out. As you look at the cutoff battle on the right side of your screen, Curtis still has it, but by 16 points. And from the note from our producer, Ryan Bauer, the stage points have been the biggest difference in Curtis's tail, as it'll actually now reduce to 4. So with Curtis, it's still updating now. So now it's up to 1 point with Curtis still catching up to the field. He is 22nd, got the pit road repairs, and with Isaac Mock staying out, we may have a race after all for single-digit points of a margin for the 16th and final spot in the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. It's never over until it's over from Daytona.
Now, I'm trying to figure out why Austin Shoemaker has a black. Okay, he's just had it cleared, so that must have been some sort of error. Sometimes the sim can do that. There's things such as an unsafe pit entry when you're avoiding a wreck, especially at places like this, or getting a speeding penalty for doing something such as that, or just it'll think that there's a car that was wrecked that needs to be in front of you after everybody grids up, and whatever the case, apparently that was wrong, so Austin Shoemaker had that black flag clear. I was going to say that's another game changer right there, if he has to serve that under green, because he's looking pretty good right now up in 9th.
Oh yeah, if that was a black flag, I mean, you could take him out of the conversation altogether, but I mean, thankfully that's cleared. Top 10, Austin Shoemaker, mind you, a former winner here at the World 10 Tour of Racing. You have to go back to season 4 of this series, July 11th, 2021, with the next-gen cars. I think that was the first ever season that the series had to run next-gen cars. But when they came out, Shoemaker led 29 laps en route to that victory. And so he knows what it's like to win at this track. Can he do it again with the playoff spot on the line? It's Ross Harlow and Lawson Peel, the 5 and the 12, to bring us back to the green on row number 1. 25 laps remaining. Green flag is out.
Slowly picking up speed. Ooh, that bottom line did not go with the 5, though. I wonder if they're just trying to snooker him here and hanging back so that they could drop him, but the top group seems to be the place to be on this restart.
and nobody went on the bottom. Sean Kalis gave him so much room, and by him I mean the 5 car of Ross Harlow. He just did not give him the push. Top 2 have now broken out, and one of them is the 47 of Isaac Mock. He has seen daylight for the first time this evening in the Fastenal 330, and he will push the defending series champion as they try to build a run on the top, led by Dakota Wilson.
It ain't over till it's over. The 47 is in a never say die mode this evening, and is going to try and see what he can do to bring it home to the postseason. Because now we've got Dakota Wilson here up around the outside in the 78 as well. He's also kind of come from the back, involved in an accident a couple cautions ago.
And look who's behind him, the 31 of Colin Forrester, driver who started 8th in this race, got into a crash, our first on-track incident crash of the race, got put a lap down, and look where he is, back in contention for this win in the top 5. Lawson Peel is going to block the run by the 78 on the back straightaway. Wilson is having none of it. He goes to the bottom for the point.
Quarter century of laps left to go. It's coming down to it now. This is where I can completely understand drivers pushing forward to the front more so, being more aggressive from here on out. You want that track position. You want to be up towards the top, especially if we do start to get yellows. Here's the tricky thing, is that, you can't pass under yellows, obviously, but that means that if you have to make up some spots, you got to go quick. You can't sit around because if those yellows start happening a lot, then that's all the less time you have to try and put yourself where you need to be.
It's that strategy that we've seen happen at tracks where passing is so difficult. You want to go up to the front as quickly as you can and as early as possible. It is playing out this way here at Daytona, and we're watching several drivers move to the inside lane, although it really has not brought them to any success in comparison to Lawson Peel, who's basically all by himself at the front with everybody on the outside with him. Logan Sturgeon in the 26 tried to make a move on the bottom in front of Dakota Wilson, but they barely have any help, and it's all up to these guys inside the top 5, which includes Brandon Banks, Bill Schoonover. How about that? And Schoonover goes to the bottom.
Yeah, that's Logan Sturgeon in behind Tim. I was just about to say that the bottom line is basically nothing at that point. So if anybody wanted to try and dive out and see if they can make it go, I'd say Schoonover was the one. And he's going to get a nice little push from Logan, and it works a treat. He's already gaining up on Peel.
The inside more organized, this time out of turn 4. Saw a big checkup at around the latter half of the top 20 where Warren Kyle Keith was. Jesse Whittington saw 3 wide in the middle for about 2 or 3 seconds before they settled that quickly. Whittington now 20th on the inside lane. There's the cutoff battle. Dakota Curtis has it by 10 points. Isaac Mock has dropped back to 14 points off. The 14 car of Shoemaker, who is P6 right now, is 10 points out of the P16 spot. But again, so much can change in very little time. Schoonover blocks to the bottom. He gets into the 26, and somehow we're gonna stay green.
Yeah, he's able to stay on the apron down on the grass, though. It looks like Logan Sturgeon is having to carefully pick his way back, and it looks like he's able to keep it going. No yellow.
It was a dangerous block by the 9, and that takes them out of contention now as they cross the line with 20 laps to go. Forrester with a big run on the back bumper here. He's got the 14 of Shoemaker behind him. Isaac Mock trying to fight for his playoff life on the outside leading.
Boy, this is just at every twist and turn imaginable during this race. This has been wild stuff, and so many drivers that I've written off that are back into it here at the very end. So we got another 3 wide, a little farther back there. So far, that hasn't boded well in the past, but it looks like they're going to manage it. And in amongst that group is Parker Bland, actually.
Parker Bland is winning the big bracket challenge now. The last time we gave you that update, Warren Kyle Keith was winning that fight, but Parker Bland has found her way to the front. Now she's got a chance at those $200, even if she does not get the race win from Daytona. You saw the 3 wide action in the middle, but who was it, Joe Peak? Gary Sexton, Steven Stempien. You can always count on Sexton to make moves 3 wide if he needs to. He's on the bottom, now inside the top 10, and no movement from that top side led by James Kunkel.
Yeah, Gary is going to try and fill any gap that he can see here. If he gets an opening and his spotter calls it, he's going to be jumping around. He wants to be back at that front. We know that's his MO at this point, and he's not afraid to take some risks to try and get there.
That's my MO. I'm going to beat to that ish. Sort of line by Lil Wayne as the 13 hangs on to the inside 4 now. Finally, the outside has a bit of momentum. They're going to try and side draft here on the 5 of Ross Harlow. And the question resides, Joe, if you're one of these guys on the inside, when do you jump up, or do you jump up at all if you see them start to come up?
I'd say if you get that clear and you feel like you're not going to cause a wreck, go for it. It's 18 to go. You got to try and make some leaps and bounds. You got to try and make some positions and get up towards the front. Let's not forget about those green-white checkers. If we get down to 5 laps to go or less, then any yellow is going to send us into overtime.
And with the fuel situation, that might make things a little dangerous just based on when you came down last. And we talked to Ross Harlow under that one of our most recent yellow flags. He talked about how he was really not concerned about having not enough fuel to make it to the end. He knew he would have to fuel save a little bit, but he basically said that he was fine. He can make it to the checkered flag. Now, is that the same for everyone else? Only time will tell. Your cutoff battle is dead even for 16th as Isaac Mock continues to move through the field, pushing the 3 of Kunkel on the back straightaway.
I'm seeing a lot more side drafting, and they're getting dangerously close to one another. Now, for those that aren't familiar, the side draft is essentially basically that you slow down the car next to you by using the disturbed air to ease them up. So if you feel like the car next to you has too much momentum, you can try and get close. Now, in the real world, it's a lot easier to try and make sure that you do that correctly. In the sim world, it can be a little dangerous because of netcode, because of lag, and it can suddenly detect and think that you hit someone when you didn't. So you have to be very certain that you're not doing something too sketchy, that you're not making a movement that the prediction code would misinterpret.
But it's also just based on driver. Even if you can acknowledge that system, you can be a driver that says, if I don't try it, I will not find out. So some of them are just willing to do it. And you're right, these drivers are getting a little more antsy side draft wise. I mentioned why we really haven't seen 3 wide action all night. It's because the top and the bottom have been so separated in distance. Now that distance is starting to close up, and we're seeing more aggressive side drafts. We're seeing more guys get a little closer to their competition. They're flirting with disaster, but they know that they can get away with it. At least they believe they can, and so far they have. 15 laps to go. We'll go to 14 laps to go when we cross the start-finish line down the super stretch. Ross Harlow has taken hold of that outside charge, which was at one point led by James Kunkel. Harlow is taking his chances. Will anybody else go up with him? Right now, the answer is no, but give it some more time, and if that outside continues to make the moves that they have, those 3 up front are going to start to notice.
The dark horse I'm keeping an eye on here is Brandon Banks. Don't feel like we've really talked about him much up towards the front. It seems like he just kind of appeared here at the end, and there you can see started 12th, so he was kind of around the mid-pack, but he's suddenly here, and it looks like he's very calm and collected, although he is actually dropping off those top 3 for some reason.
His highest super speedway finish, 13th. That came at Talladega, and he got a 19th place finish at the Atlanta Motor Speedway in mid-March to kick off the 2023 season. Another driver that I'm watching for that I could probably count on as a dark horse too, that 3 car of James Kunkel. He thought he had the race won at Atlanta. He thought he was going to be in the playoffs, locked in with a win. Race control decided no. It was Curtis Kelly who took home that win, and he got scored accordingly. The 3 car is looking for vengeance on super speedways. He knows that he can do it for Nitro Motorsports. He knows he's got the skills to be up and lead races and win races, but he needs that one to officially confirm that theory. He is side by side with Brandon Banks for that last spot in the top 5. Top 3 have now relegated a little bit. They came back to the drivers of the field that they really pushed away from, and here comes the 5 outside of Colin Forrester.
Down to 13 to go here. The nerves are going to be starting to build. Drivers are going to be getting more and more antsy. So this is where you're kind of in the danger zone. Like I said, all the risks are starting to be taken And the more drivers are rolling that dice, the more likelihood we could see a yellow. For some reason, I wonder if there's some damage maybe on the 54. He seems to be having trouble keeping up with the top three unless he's maybe trying to play some sort of team game and intentionally holding up this other group.
Let's see if there's no damage on that Cheddars.com, Bridgestone, Chevy Camaro. He's holding back, and in some cases, I've heard him lift on his Camaro. So, I mean, I've seen interesting things here from this 54. He is not pushing the issue. He understands where he's at. And also, look at the distance between himself and Dakota Wilson. He knows that if he pushes too far ahead, it's going to be all for naught. He wants to stay even with these guys on the top. So some strategy play here by Banks. Will it work? Or is it destined to work? I don't know.
Yeah, he's through. He's already had a win this season, so he doesn't need the win in this one. Whatever the case, it certainly seems like there's some games being played. Not enough that the top three are able to run away. Shoemaker, Forrester, and Peel are trying. They just can't seem to break the slipstream.
All right, on board with the 47 of Isaac Mock. He holds one spot to the bad for the top 16. Dakota Curtis still has it, but it is minuscule. That gap between those two, that's the closest we've seen it basically all night long. Dakota Curtis is riding in 20th with no decent progress. If he loses one more spot, or if that 47 gains one, they are going to be dead even, and it will come down to a tiebreaker. We'll see if that's the case in the next 10 laps or so, but for now, the 47 is in a favorable position. Dakota Wilson swaps up to the top. He'll try and take the lead away on the outside, but to no avail. Those top three, Joe Peak, have been unstoppable since being up there.
Yeah, they've been leading that bottom line for some time now. Although, do we have someone different there on the top? Because it's not Harlow leading. That is Dakota Wilson now that is up there on the top line trying to lead that pack, but doesn't seem to be able to quite keep up with that bottom line. Suddenly, for some reason, the bottom just, it looks tremendously fast. There, again, this is a fixed setup, so there's nothing special going on under the hood, but they've got some sort of system that the others have not been able to break.
And they are working so well together. Most notably, those top three, Peel, Forrester, and Shoemaker, they have been inseparable. And despite what that outside lane, cooking up car on the wall, that's Dakota Wilson. He goes around to the back straightaway. Caution is out again with 9 laps to go.
Wilson just got a bad push from the 5, sent him into the wall, and poor Jesse Whittington was wrong place at the wrong time. Caught a couple other cars in the process as well. Also looks like Ryan Kendall, I think, got a big piece of it right there.
Tough hit for Kendall in the 68, one of the cleanest cars all race. We'll dial it up again. 78 just darted down the track, and something that you can easily do with the next-gen cars, and I talked about it earlier in the show, that back end can sort of unravel in front of you, and it can be really unexpected with these fixed setups. And he just goes up the track into Ross Harlow, and then down the track he went. Jesse Whittington, who had been trying to build his resume all race long, now gets his track position swiped away from him. Steven Stempian, who at one point went 3 wide through the middle with Gary Sexton to gain track position. That didn't work, but he's back here. That's a big hit to the back end of Kevin Hurley, who gives him 2 taps, and Hurley picks up more damage. Boy, a bad night gone worse for the Bud number 25 of Hurley. Here's a look from Mock.
So it sounds like Dakota Wilson's going to get an EOL, being told for damage. Great avoidance there. Great stuff there from Mock once again, somehow dodging the problems that have been surrounding him. Didn't manage it all race long, but certainly when it counts here at the end, he's been making brilliant decisions.
That is definitely true, and he's been in situations where he has never expected himself to be near the end of races. And I can call, Talladega Super Speedway earlier this year, where we talked to him in the broadcast booth, and he did not know how we got there. He was still clueless by the time we interviewed him. when he finished in that position, and Isaac Mock doing the most he can to survive. Meanwhile, Dakota Curtis, that right front damage, ever since he was given that, this race has not been the same at all for the 0G Ford Mustang, Joe Peak, and it's gone the opposite direction. He still, by the way, holds a gap for the top 16, but it's just a matter of, at one point, with the struggles that he's faced, at one point is Zach going to brush away, and then he's going to be on the back foot.
Well, this is going to be a lot more tense here because I think we're going to be restarting with all of 4 laps to go, 4 or 5 laps to go. So it's going to be minuscule, and if we get another yellow, it is for sure going into overtime. So can they hold it together for just a handful of laps to try and not extend the lap count on this one?
We have those 3 attempts to extend this race, so question marks all over the air. It's been a theme all night long. I said it at the top of the show, and I'm going to say it again. Questions still not answered, and it's always because it's Daytona. Track position has mattered so far for the likes of Peel, Forrester, and Shoemaker, as they have really made the most of their time up here and have not allowed that outside to get a hint of success, a hint of good momentum going their way, and that 12 car has been at the command of it all. He started this race 32nd. He is the largest mover of the race, plus 31, and your defending champion, Joe Peak, is looking for career win number 17 in the 4-wide, or rather the Sunoco Cup Series. I got it confused. Lawson Peel also dominates in that league as well, but might also have 2 in a row in hand after winning at Watkins Glen.
All right, green next time by. So lights are out on the pace car. This is certainly going to be a fun one, no doubt. But I mean, for a lot of drivers, it's not end of the line, but considering where everybody's focus is, this is essentially do or die.
It is, and also if you're those drivers in the back half of the top 10. You need to move. There is no other option. And you've got guys like Gary Sexton. You've got guys like James Kunkel, Isaac Mock, Ross Harlow. Those who might just amp up the intensity here in these closing laps, especially if you're that 47. You want the momentum because guess what? You are holding the last spot in the top 16. Dakota Curtis is now 2 points out. It's a tiebreaker between the 47 of Mock and the 14 of Austin Shoemaker, who currently sits in the top 3. So it is going to be a heavy bout of the ages with 5 laps to go. Joe Peak, what are you expecting here?
A yellow, if I'm honest. But I think I'm expecting Shoemaker to probably go for the win here on this one. He is the one that has shocked me because obviously tied for it, but now it essentially I think he kind of needs himself to try and get a win. So I expect him, if he is paying attention to this, to just go all out, go for broke, and try and get it. Because man, he has stolen a march if that's the case, coming in from 21 points back from the cut line. That is unbelievable that he's put himself this close.
It's a comeback of the ages. Can he complete it? 5 laps to go to settle it from Daytona. Again, we have those green-white checkered attempts to extend this race, but if we don't need it, we'll run it all the way. Green flag in the air with 5 to go. Lawson Peel and Colin Forrester get a good jump for turn 1.
That's a very unorganized start, I have to say. They're quite far apart from one another. It's a bit surprising, but I guess maybe a few drivers wanting to leave some openings, and they're all going to the bottom. That's kind of been the place to be recently, though.
I mean, think about it with the way Forrester, Shoemaker, and Peel were running on the bottom. They'd want to stay there, but the biggest note of it all that has changed, the driver behind the 12 is not the 31. It's his teammate, the 54 of Brandon Banks. Help on the way, and it is sent. The 30 car of Wyatt Brackett moves to the bottom. He checks up the inside, and that's a huge one. Turn 4 exit will go to Garrett Brown on the top. Lawson Peel brings them to 4 laps to go.
Yeah, I'm glad everybody was heads up in that situation because that was a massive checkup on the bottom, right in the middle of the pack. It's always a lot harder when you're in the middle of the pack to try and determine those checkups because you're kind of blind. Those spoilers are pretty big on the back.
Yeah, you are basically blinded. If you're right up on the back bumper of somebody, you need to either get out of line or just hope that things in front of you are clear enough as is. The 13 of Sexton flirted with the top. Now he goes for the bottom. Allen Iverson crossover on the 14. He'll get underneath him. He'll push the 31. Now Forrester looks for second.
Massive push there on the 31. And that worked out beautifully. He's nearly going up to the front. Few drivers getting a little squirrely. They hold on to it, though.
Man, this has been absolutely outstanding. 2 laps to go and the final 5 miles in this Fastenal 330 from Daytona. And it looks like it is all in command of the 12, but for how long? And the 31 will have a good run out of turn 2 by that 13 and the 30, but it's going to be a matter, Joe, of how good these drivers are at pushing, and that's a lot of wiggling on the bottom. Not helpful.
Not quite at the 2 to go yet. We still got 3 more laps, but the bottom is just dissipating, and suddenly the top is the place to be. But Lawson Peel has been controlling this race incredibly well here at the end. I wonder if he might be our new Gary Sexton.
But his supporter is the DBR driver behind him in Brandon Banks, and how much will that play into a role for guys like Shoemaker, Brown, Mock, and everyone behind as they try to go for the win. Now it's 2 laps to go. Cars into the wall. Sexton up there. Caution is out. We are going to overtime.
Oh, and Sexton gets a secondary hit that I think is going to do him in. That might be night over after he was running such an incredible race. It came when he made contact, I believe. Yeah, he got checked up, and the 30 just was there at the wrong time. Wyatt Brackett is going to turn him. And then to his outside, I think that was Ryan Kendall. Yeah, that was unfortunately there and couldn't disappear.
The biggest hit for the 13. That's such disappointment as he's been trying so eagerly to get back to the front where he was residing for most of this race. Jesse Whittington, the sheriffstrafe.com 94, again gets caught up in a crash and just unlucky for the second straight time. Jesse cannot catch a break. Everyone else gets around, and there's a big hit. You look at, I believe that was Kip Easley in the 8 car, bearing that Kyle Busch paint scheme that made a little bit of contact there with the spinning Sexton. Here's a look from Sean Kalist.
A little bit of wall contact, but looks like he managed to make it through the majority of it, which is the good thing. Unfortunately, just didn't come out unscathed.
It's nothing these cars can't take, a little bit of a beating. The 43 gets around the incident and avoids suffering sustained damage that could take him out of the race. The 13 of Sexton does another look at it as he goes around. That's a big hit as well, and that was Kip Easley that gave him the second tap. Here's a look from Alex Muscarella, the SKM car, and boy, SKM went through a really big shift in emotion. At one point, all 3 of them were basically there at the top side, and now they're near the back trying to survive. Muscarella does a great job of hitting the apron and getting away from the chaos.
Absolutely, and that's the nice thing about having all that paved runoff down to the bottom that they've extended quite a few times out there for safety reasons, and that is a good example why. Now, we don't have to worry about injury nearly as much, at least here in sim racing, but still works the same. It still offers a bit of an out if you wind up in those situations, and he knew it was there. He used it to great effect, and that's kept him in the game.
When you've got that much space, might as well use it. Great avoidance by some of the drivers we looked on board with as Gary Sexton and a couple of others are hitting pit road, and that's such heartbreak for the driver of the 13 who has been looking for redemption on super speedways since Atlanta Motor Speedway, where he got spun from the lead with 22 laps to go in that race. Now it looks like this one for him is now going to be out of the picture, unfortunately. There's a look at the top 16 playoff cutoff battle, and between the 47 of Isaac Mock, the 10 of Dakota Curtis, and you bring in that 3rd car, Austin Shoemaker, who, I mean, like you said, Joe Peak, and you brought a great point, he was 21 points out of it, beneath Warren Kyle Keith, beneath Kevin Hurley, and now he is single-digit points away from having a playoff berth. This race has turned around so insanely for him, and it's going to come down to the wire. I don't think it's a matter of us knowing the answer until the checkered flag is out.
Yeah, and part of the reason that's so impressive is the fact that he had 3 other people in line in front of him. So he's kind of leapfrogged a few people in the process and needed some bad luck, which has happened. And you always have to just work with the cards you're dealt. And thankfully for him, he got a little bit of a lucky draw.
Now, I'd counted 3 battles that are happening on track as we speak. Number 1 is the battle for the lead. Brandon Banks, Lawson Peel have been stellar defensively against everybody else. It's a matter of can they hold on now in this first attempt at overtime. The second battle is this one for the playoff points. Isaac Mock, Dakota Curtis, Austin Shoemaker. Which of them will get that final 16th playoff spot? The third battle in this that we have talked about sparsely over tonight's race is that big bracket challenge final between Parker Bland in the 18 and the 24 of Warren Kyle Keith. Now, if we look at the running order, Parker Bland is currently running 7th. Warren Kyle Keith is back in 12th. It is only 5 spots between those two, and that means that also might go down to the wire before this is all said and done. That's $200 on the line for either one of those two. That's why you're seeing the yellow banner on the 24 car. And for Parker Bland's machine, you can also see that yellow banner with his team logo on the top. So it is really close on all 3 fronts as we get ready for our first of 3 attempts at overtime. We'll explain the rules just before we get the green flag once again from Daytona. We'll have this field just like this with 2 laps to go, just like any other normal restart. If the caution comes out before the leader gets to the white flag, we will double them up and do it all over again with those 3 attempts available. However, if the leader does get to the white and no caution waves in that span of time between the green and the white, then we will end that race officially no matter what happens. Our last option, which hopefully is not to be seen tonight, is if we do exhaust all 3 green-white checkered attempts, caution comes out before we get the white flag on the last attempt. Whoever is scored the leader at the time of that last caution is the winner of the Fastenal 330. Now, hopefully we don't get to that point. Hopefully we can end this race under our first green-white checkered. Joe Peak, we've got a race in store.
Oh boy, do we. I'm crossing fingers, crossing toes and eyes to make sure that we get to that white flag. I want to see us finish under green here. It's certainly going to be tough based on what we're seeing, because we are seeing that desperation rear its ugly head.
Lawson Peel looking to tie Mario Miranda for most all-time Sunoco Cup Series wins. Brandon Banks looking for his 2nd win of the season after winning at Dover. Garrett Brown, Austin Shoemaker behind them, still looking for their first. Pace cars down. The 12 car has the outside lane decision. He will jump first with his Drinkin' Bros Racing teammate. First attempt at overtime.
Big jump out on the front for both of our leaders. They're going to get swallowed up pretty quickly here, which actually could be really bad news if we find cars scattering to try and dive through just like that. Oh boy.
And we're in the middle, 3 wide. James Kunkel, help from Ross Harlow and Warren Kyle Keith. The 12 is going to get there, and I'd imagine, Joe Peak, this is looking like a Drinkin' Bros Racing control of the front. They want to have all lanes covered, and they do on the back straightaway.
It's a fantastic work by them, but it got very sketchy. Thankfully, everybody was heads up because there were some bad bumps in there. If we can make it to that white flag, it's getting close. Once again, drivers kind of getting a little bit iffy on this contacts.
Shoemaker has been looking at the middle. We will cross the tri-oval. White flag in the air in the Fastenal 330. This race is official. Garrett Brown and the insiders are crashing before turn 1.
Oh, this is going to take out a vast majority of them, but it looks like it's down to the top 4, maybe 5. The 47 of Isaac Mock is still in there, and he is holding on, but right now it's Peel leading.
How many times have we seen this before where the field crashes and there's only a couple of cars left to settle it? Peel gets jumped by Kunkel and Brown, and it turns 3 and 4 for the final time. Colin Forrester and Isaac Mock trying their dearest to get to the front. Kunkel shoots for the top. Will he have the help? Yes, he will. Peel will go up top. He'll try the block. It will not work. Lawson Peel steals Daytona and gets his 17th career Sunoco Cup Series win.
Fantastic stuff from him. He got hung out to dry there, coming through 3 and 4. He knew it. He backed it up a bit. He let the others kind of take his place, and then he turned the tables on him. And how about the 47 of Isaac Mock? I didn't even think he was going to finish this race at one point, and he has come back to second. I think that's going to put him through.
His best finish since Talladega, 3rd place. Isaac Mock comes home in second. The points are saying that Dakota Curtis has it by 3 as he came home in 12th.
Wow. He must have avoided that huge wreck. I need to even go back and see where he was and all that. I knew he was back there, but he must have seen the wreck happening and just basically dived out of the way to avoid it and let it give him a whole bunch of spots.
We're going to have to watch that again. But as it stands, Lawson Peel is the official winner of the Fastenal 330 and brings you tonight's Sunoco winning moment. More high-performance racing engines rely on Sunoco race fuels more than all others combined. For over 50 years, Sunoco has been fueling the top race car drivers around the world with high-quality performance fuels they can trust to power them to the checkered flag. Sunoco, fueling victories from track to tank. 3rd race win of season 6 by Lawson Peel, and is the first driver this season to go 2 in a row. Ties Mario Miranda for most all-time Sunoco Cup Series wins at 17th. And as it stands, Isaac Mock is out of the top 16 and will not be a part of the playoffs next week at Nashville Superspeedway, with Dakota Curtis finishing 12th. Joe, we have to watch that at least one more time before it's over. Parker Bland celebrating because she has just gotten the $200 check, winning the Big Bracket Challenge.
Absolutely. You can see how much $200 means. So she is going to be able to burn it down for that. But yeah, I was able to go back and look. Curtis barely made it through on that wreck. In fact, I think we've got a replay on it. Watch this car. Once again, making use of that runoff down to the inside. But even with that, he's going to come within a couple inches of getting taken out here. Oh,
wow.
Without that, it would have easily been Isaac Mock's. But he just picked the absolute right spot. As soon as he saw the problems, he went to the bottom. And, oh, did he even actually make some contact in that?
If he did, it was bare. That was so close. Chuck Phelps coming up the racetrack. And this is a playoff entering move. Avoiding the wreck on the last lap.
Wow. So you're going to watch it here as he tries to get underneath him. Yeah, it was a paper's width in there. Could have been turned around, but he managed to hold on to it and went by all the wreckage and gained, gosh, at least 10 spots right there.
And you have to imagine for Isaac Mock, there is bittersweetness behind the wheel of that 47. His best finish this season by far in 2nd place, but just knowing that he is just a couple of spots out of the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs, that is remarkable. Drama building here at Daytona, and we're still not done with it. Lawson Peel wins over Isaac Mock in the 47. James Kunkel for Nitro Motorsports comes home in the top 3. What a run by both Mock and Kunkel to close out this race. Garrett Brown silent all night long from 33rd to start, ends up 4th. Colin Forster, the rookie driver, rounds out the top 5. Wyatt Brackett in the 30 car comes home in 6th. 7th place will go to Logan Sturgeon. A great race for him as well after starting 34th. Alex Muscarella comes home in 8th. Parker Bland is 9th, and that gets her the $200 for the Big Bracket Challenge win over Warren Kyle Keith. Jesse Winnington closes out the top 10 Joe Pekin, and just a reminder that so far everything is unofficial. We will get confirmed calls from the league owners and race admins, but for now, this is the running order.
Exactly, and 11th goes to Kevin Hurley, who was another one of those that was trying to sneak in, but Dakota Curtis's luck and his points there managed to get him through. He finished 12th behind Kevin Hurley. Justin Winters was 13th, exactly where he started, as Kip Easley was 14th, and Austin Shoemaker, who at one point looked like he was going to be through, fell down to 15th by the end. Sean Kalist was 16th as Spill Schoonover finished P17, Stempien 18th, and Harlow way down the order compared to where he was at one point in 19th. Casey Knighton was 20th.
21st goes to Justin Urban, the 20 car. 22nd to Brandon Banks, who got sent out of the winning with that last lap crash before turn 1. Gary Sexton falls to 23rd. He got into a crash before that first attempt of overtime. Chris Pogar is 24th at the end of it. Chuck Feltz in the 75 caught up in that last lap scuffle is 25th. 26th will go to Warren Kyle Keith, one lap down. Justin Reeves is 27th. 28th to Ryan Kendall. 29th to Dakota Wilson. And rounding out the top 30, the 11 car of Ray Rogers for RTR Motorsports.
Unfortunately, from there on down, it's all DNFs with Danielson, Shoemaker, Mahar, Adcock, Miller, Fulham, and Swavely not seeing the checkered flag tonight. We expected that without any spare cars, Kenneth, but it certainly ate up a few.
Lots of drivers taken out of tonight's race from Daytona, but we do have a winner, and his name is Lawson Peel for the second time in a row this season. The 12 car has the checkered flag with him. Watkins Glenn Lawson treated you nicely at the end. Daytona does the same. Give us a perspective of this big shift at the end. I mean, you were hanging back in the field, 32nd to start. You control the last 15 or so laps of this race and win. How did you do it?
Yeah, anytime you can get one here at Daytona or Talladega, it's a good feeling because these are just not going to go your way most of the time. So certainly good when one of them goes your way. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to stay in the back, stay out of the trouble early. I mean, I think both of those wrecks towards the first half of the race happened right up around the front. So I guess looking back on it, hopefully that was the right call. And in the last stage there, just kind of went ahead and got up there and tried to stay up front. I didn't want to be up there too early, but eventually just kind of wanted to stay up there and try to stay ahead of all the accidents. And we had a pretty good green flag stint there. Colin, kept our lane out front and was doing a really good job. And we kind of chewed off a lot of laps there before we had that caution with about 10 to go. So just kind of set me up for a good position there for those last couple of restarts, and was able to go my way. Feeling really good about it, Kenneth.
Huge win from Daytona, no doubt about it. And give us a perspective of you and Brandon Banks on that last restart. Was the motive the whole time just to control both lanes, make sure nobody else had a chance?
Exactly, yeah. So we were talking about that, and I was telling him, I mean, it would honestly be best case scenario for us if we ended up just side by side the whole 2 laps, because that's just would pretty much guarantee that one of us would win. You run a risk if if he lets me down in front of him on the restart. We just run a risk of leaving that top lane open for a couple other cars to tandem and get a huge run by us. And then, it's kind of what happened to Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon in the Daytona 500. They wanted to line up and do a tandem, but, looking back on it, it's almost better if you control both lanes, because then that just gives your team a better chance to win. So we did that certainly the first lap of the green white checkered pretty well, and then there was a wreck back there. Brandon got wrecked and left about 5 cars left, and I wasn't going to block any of those runs. I was just going to let them go and then try to formulate another run out of 4 like I did, which worked out. So that's it's a plus. Anytime something like that works out, it's a pretty good night. Certainly I would have loved to see Isaac or Kunkel bring that home, or or Garrett. Those guys. It would have been awesome to see them get a win. So I hate to just take it from them like that, but I just had a huge run and I had to do something with it.
I'm trying to refrain myself from trying to make a SpaceX rocket reference, but you certainly shot yourself to another planet in Season 6 now. The only driver with 3 wins. You tie Mario Miranda for most wins of all time in this series at 17. playoff time next at Nashville Superspeedway. You know you've been locked in for a while, but to get these 2 wins in a row unequivocally, what does that do for your confidence and momentum heading into Nashville?
Yeah, it's all positives. This season has been a pretty good season. I've shot myself in the foot a couple of times, got wrecked a few times, but the speed has been there. Just haven't, haven't just collected a ton of good finishes, and we've seen all these different winners this year. Everybody's been getting wins, and just everybody's kind of getting a share of that, which is awesome to see. So, yeah, this is going to put me in a good place going to the playoffs. Was able to win Nashville last year, so hopefully can come into there with speed and get week 1 started off right in the playoffs and just keep the momentum going.
Well, it's the best way to start it, no doubt, before the regular season closed. Lawson Peel, defending champion, of course, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on taking the Fastenal 330 from Daytona, and looking forward to see you go for 2 championships in a row, starting at Nashville Superspeedway.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
That's Lawson Peel in the 12, winning for the 2nd time in a row as he steals Daytona in the last couple of laps. We talk next to the driver of the 47, Joe Peak. You're with him. Probably some bated breath and some anxiousness. Still unofficial on the top 16 for point standings.
Yeah, Isaac, by our unofficial math, it looks like you are going to be below the cut line by 3 points. Talk to us about the conflict of emotion of dealing with that while also getting your best finish of the season here in second.
Oh man, no, that just hurts. Couple points short, couple positions shy, right?
It's got to be tough to try and mull over that in your mind right now, especially considering you were up against it. We were highly impressed. It looked like at one point early in the race that you got involved in a wreck, you might be out of it, and then you bounced back and you're suddenly at the front. I mean, what was it like in the car being able to charge back to the potential a win even?
I got a lot of guys, supporting me. Everybody at Nitro and Team Watson and PWR, our affiliates, man. We just don't have any quit. This thing could be tore all to pieces, and I'd still go get every position we can. Yeah, we suffered some damage. We got it fixed. We got back out there, and I just tried to miss all we could and gain all we could. But again, just a little short, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure it's so frustrating, but one of the things we noticed is that you didn't get any of the stage points in comparison to Dakota. Is that a regret for you? Do you feel like there's something you could have done different?
We got caught up in that first wreck right outside the first stage. I almost had it miss, and somebody came pulling down on us. So we got put us outside on the first stage, and then the second stage, I had internet issues, and there was a little small cell running out. And I wasn't going to cost anybody a race just because I wanted to be stingy right there at the end of a stage. So, yeah, I mean, that's where it falls on the shoulders of where if we lost the race at. But like I said, we didn't have any quit. We got what we could, and we got a few more races to try to steal us a win here.
Well, I have to say that is a real testament to your sense of sportsmanship that you were willing to do that, knowing that that's going to cost you valuable points in a situation like this. So I think you can hold your head high, like you said. You fought all the way to the end, and still a second place, your first podium of the season. Congratulations, sir.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for the awesome shows you guys do.
That was Isaac Mock in the 47 here, Kenneth. Obviously, this one's going to be something for him to have to think about for quite some time. But why don't we chat with James Kunkel as well?
And here with James Kunkel, got to give credit to Isaac Mock and got to give credit for, Nitro Motorsports as a whole, James. I reckon you're probably very proud with the way this team performed at the end at Daytona. Just give us your perspective in those winning laps at the first and only green-white checkered attempt.
Yeah, very proud of the team. It's kind of a catch-22. You got to go in for yourself to get in the playoffs, but you know that you got Isaac there that needs a win, or someone else to drop back, and we have a kind of a quasi team with prestige, and so Garrett was there, and it was just there was a bunch of us up there, and it was just last lap's kind of on every man for himself. Just I am proud of the team. I'm just really, really disappointed in myself, as funny as it sounds.
And give us a perspective of you throughout this race, because I know you got caught up in a crash at one point. You did have some damage. and you got it all repaired. You got yourself back out on the racetrack. In that last stint, in that last stage overall, what was the mindset behind the wheel, and how were you able to strategically put yourself in the right place at the right time every time?
Yeah, so about 30, 35 laps to go, me, Isaac, and Garrett, funny enough, we kind of lost a little bit of the lead pack. There's a bunch of checkups, and we kind of all agreed that, hey, they're still 35. They're probably going to wreck. Let's just chill here and just be able to miss it and, just have a clean car. Those late restarts, because you got to expect there's going to be one within 5 laps or multiple green, white checkers. So we did that, and it wasn't 3 laps later that big one happened with about 25 to go. Then all of a sudden, me and Isaac found ourselves at the front, with clean cars. Everybody had to pit for tires, damage, whatever it needed to be. And we kind of just stayed there and we missed the wrecks. It was a weird race, a lot of checkups. The high line would go for a few laps, and then the bottom line would come, and you're kind of just high-speed pace laps. We've all seen it a million times. But yeah, just miss the wreck and keep your car clean. You get there with 3-4 to go, and you never know what can happen.
So a top 3 here from Daytona International Speedway, and you've got a lot of races to go in Season 6. You've got Nashville Super Speedway next. You've got a lot of others until Homestead in Miami. What's the expectations now for those races, and are there any tracks that you find that may suit to your strong strengths, as I would say, for the end of the season?
Yeah, there's a lot of races. I guess the goal now is, the goal is always to win a race, of course, but the goal now is see who on our team's got in the playoffs. I think Garrett did, and I'm not sure who else, maybe, but yeah. So look, it's not a secret for anyone that watches most weeks. I'm mid-pack unless it comes to these type of tracks. So obviously, I've got Atlanta circled for a lot of reasons here in a few weeks. Still feel like I won that race back to the start of the season, so maybe we'll get some redemption there.
Well, we're excited to see you roll on through the rest of the season, James. On behalf of all of us at the broadcasting team at Podium Esports, congratulations on the 3rd, and wishing you the best of luck at Nashville Super Speedway next week.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all y'all do.
So that is James Kunkel in the 3 car, who ends up rounding out the top 3. 2 of those, by the way, in the Podium Nitro Motorsports machines. Unofficially, Isaac Muck out by 3 points. Dakota Curtis is into the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs, and the storylines pour in. When you look at every factor that we've seen tonight, whether it's Lawson Peel controlling the end of that race, whether it's the big bracket challenge between Parker Bland and Warren Kyle Keith, whether it's Muck and Curtis and Shoemaker all the way to the end. This race had it all, as we're almost about 12 o'clock on the East Coast to end it.
Yeah, it took a while, but I'd say it was worth it because, man, what a build and so many twists and turns. You mentioned Shoemaker in there as well. He was a bit of a surprise, almost squeaked through himself, but it all kind of turned around at the end, especially with that big wreck. And it all comes full circle to what I talked about as soon as you came to me. You got to think about both big picture and you got to stay out of trouble.
And the 12 car does all of that, checks all the boxes, gets his 3rd race win of Season 6. But now it's time to get those 16 rolling for the championship. We start at Nashville Super Speedway next week, June 25th. What are your thoughts, Joe, about that one?
Going to be an interesting one because it's a very unique track, a unique distance around it, as well as being concrete. You don't really see that as often in terms of surfaces. So it's going to really test drivers because it's going to behave a little bit differently than what they're used to.
It's the first of many steps to a Sunoco Cup Series championship in 2023. We're ready to find out which of those 16 has the guts and the skill, consistency, and everything in between to get a championship this year. That does it for our broadcast of the Fastenal 330 here from Daytona International Speedway. For those that are just tuning in, or for those that have been with us since the drop of the green, we appreciate every single second that you've spent joining us here on Podium Esports just around 12 o'clock midnight on the East Coast. And we have a winner in the form of Lawson Peel. To Dakota Curtis and all the admins at the Sunoco Cup Series, a big thank you for all of the work they do, and for all of us at Podium Esports, for Gary Sexton and John Theodore, and for our broadcast team this evening, for our producer Ryan Bauer, our camera creator Dougie Beard, and for my colleague in the booth, Joe Peak. My name is Kenneth Bueno, saying thank you so much for watching our broadcast of the Sunoco Cup Series. The playoffs start next week at Nashville. But for now, Lawson Peel, a 3-time race winner.